That's very aggressive.
Good evening, everyone. It's 6 o'clock, so we shall get on with the full council meeting. Number one on the agenda is the civility and respect code. So civility and respect should be at the heart of public life, and good governance is fundamental to ensuring an effective and well-functioning democracy at all levels. The intimidation, abuse, bullying and harassment of councillors, clerks and council staff in person or online is unacceptable, whether by councillors, clerks, council staff or public members. Any person adjudged by the chair of the meeting to have breached this law may be asked to apologise, withdraw their statement and or leave the meeting. Thank you. Right, so public participation, we have 15 minutes allowed for this. We'll go around the room. We'll start at this end. Good evening, Mr. John.
I understand that your excellent manager of the council and library has departed some while ago. Obviously, you can't tell me who the new manager is if you've got one, but is the process in being to elect or select a new manager?
I can't answer that directly. What I can say is that there's a process in place where we've been looking at castle operations now for about 11 months. Right. We're at the sort of final stages of that now. We've employed some consultants to do a piece of work, give us an options paper. We've literally just had a meeting with them just prior to this. They're finalising that detail and we should have that report in place in July, I would expect.
Right. That's all, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm here for the Bude Canal and Harbour Society. At the Bude Canal Trust, their AGM, it came up about the Bude Canal Partnership. And I was about to ask, are the council aware of this? And do they know if there is somebody on council that represents an interest at this group?
Now, if I recall, that has come up at a meeting recently. Peter, did we talk about that?
Are you referring to Bude Valley Management Action Group, BVMAG?
No, this is the Bude Canal Partnership.
Bude Canal Partnership.
Of which the people on there should be Devon County Council, Cornwall County Council, Bude-Stratton Town Council, Torridge District Council, Pancras-Week Parish Council, Bude Canal Harbour Society, Bude Canal Trust.
So, from memory, if I may, I think Mr. Jewell maybe have some cobwebs in his memory that he might be able to dig out, but I've got a feeling that that group almost went into some sort of it was mothballed because it was going to be taken over by somebody else and then wasn't.
Yes, they did have problems. I went to their AGM. There are some changes. They have got a new trustee. I don't know what he's called, but they have got a new trustee. It's been for about in situ for about 7 months now. The chairman he took the meeting was Steve Church, and he lives a long way away down around St Ives. And there were various questions being asked about this. The treasurer for the Canal Trust is Alan Whittle, who lives in the Lawsons area. I know him well because he's involved with the town's social keeping thing. Yeah. The chairman, Mr. Church, resigned, but remains a trustee. But as far as I know, there were no takers of anybody. I think there was only, not counting the lineup in front of us, there is myself, Mike Moore, and one lady who turned out to be the daughter of someone that was involved with us in that area. So apart from that, I can't really help you, but there should be this group, because anybody that has an interest nearby, the traders on the wharf, anybody in Breakwater Road, anybody that's close to it.
With your indulgence, I thought that the group actually did own some of the assets.
Yes,
they were hoping to pass over
they
to.
own about 5.5 miles,
Yeah.
right? Now, some of it, from Bermston Bridge onwards, is actually in Cornwall. And there is a gentleman, I don't know who he is, who has actually purchased that land, which is about half a mile long, going into Cornwall. And he has promised that he will maintain it and open up bits that are grown over. The only restriction is that he will only allow access by prior arrangement.
Right. So, if I may, in response to your answer, I think we have a vague awareness that the group used to be active.
Yes.
It was more active on the inland sections of the canal,
Yes.
and it did own some assets, and it
Yeah.
probably still does exist somewhere, but we probably can't nail it down without dredging a few more cobwebs up.
Yeah.
And we don't have any input into it at the moment.
Well, perhaps you should do. Of course, the other thing is that what is known as the Longshore Brand, which goes from Merrifield right down to Truxton. Some of that still exists. There is a guy that owns a section, Andrew Dinner, who lives at Silverlands, Boyton. He owns the Boyton, what used to be the Boyton Basin. I haven't seen him for some time, but he did actually change the way that water draining off his land that just went into the basin and then it was allowed to go through a pipe under the towpath. He changed that to a system of where you have a column and the water overflows in. And I've got photographs of when he did it some time ago now of what it would have looked, what it looked like with all the water in and such like. But I haven't seen him for a while. It looks, it looks really good.
Do you know who runs the group? Who actually chairs it? Because again, if we wanted to contribute to that, obviously we need to apply to somebody. So does anybody actually run it?
Well, I think you should contact the Bude Canal Trust and see what they say.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll take that as an action.
I think probably Mr. Whittle. He lives in the Longswells area.
Yeah, we know.
His premises is if you go to Red Post and turn right, you go a little way and there's a lane that goes into Thorpe Farm.
I'm literally seeing it tomorrow, so it's fine.
Yeah.
I've got another question.
Okay.
To the Bude Canal Harbour Society. The the barge workshop has a car park which is owned by Bude-Stratton Town Council with some enormous puddles. They're potholes, but they're turning into lakes. Now, it was quite some time ago, over a year ago, that Bude-Stratton Town Council were supposedly doing something about these. And unfortunately, they're now worn through to holes in the membrane. So what would have been a quite simple repair is now going to be a bigger repair. Are there plans to repair it soon, hopefully?
As far as I'm aware, it's on the work desk for our facilities manager, but I'm not quite sure exactly where. Obviously, it's very busy time of year at the moment.
It's been over a year now.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I will pick that up with him.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Well,
And
really,
apologies for the delay.
I have nothing else. Thank you. Thank you.
I've got one thing to mention now, and also I'd like to comment on article agenda number 14. Will I have to wait until that comes up? Like there. Okay. Just to introduce myself for people that know, my name's Dave Worth. I'm a secretary of the Royal Marines Association. Next to me is John Phil, chairman of the Royal Marines Association. Tanky, chairman of the British Legion, and Chris, chair of the Royal Naval Association. I'll be speaking about for all the three associations today. First of all, I'd like to share the thoughts of the Armed Forces community who are very upset over the last week when we was made aware of an email that Councillor LeBroy had sent. And I'd quote now what he actually said to everybody. Can I ask that Bude-Stratton Town Council takes a much more active part in the remembrance activities? In particular, those invited to the dais to receive the march past, as historically it seems to be as a method of conferring warm feelings to those whose faces fit. With the mood of the gatekeeper, not quite sure what a gatekeeper is, I believe that could be me, and excluding those that don't. I'd like to answer that before I ask Councillor LeBroy for his comments. To my knowledge, there are two people that stand on the dais. The King's representative, that's usually the Lieutenant of Cornwall or one of his representatives, and secondly, the councillor, usually the town mayor. But on other occasions, somebody like Alan Litchfield, a D-Day veteran, has stood there. I have never made that decision who stands on that dais. This email seems very pathetic in my mind and undermines and shows a total lack of respect for what the day is all about. To remember the fallen that made the ultimate sacrifice for the freedom that we live on today, and not a photo opportunity for a local councillor. I'd love to hear Councillor LeBroy's comments on this. Thank you.
Well,
it's not very respectful to laugh about it.
so, right, firstly, I want to say that whoever has shared that with you is probably a little bit of mischief making, because that was an email that was intended for fellow councillors to consider the way in which Bude-Stratton Council does engage with the event. And I would say I've attended the event and seen slightly embarrassed faces wondering who should or should not be on the dais. And it's not clear who makes the choice and who doesn't make the choice. I have no particular desire to be there, but I have wondered whether I should be on occasion. And I have been invited onto the dais sometimes, and other times I haven't. And it's quite an embarrassing situation as a councillor to find yourself wondering whether you should be putting yourself forward to engage in that, or wondering whether you should be invited. And it's always been slightly unclear to me as to what the situation is, because sometimes you see people on there which maybe you might not expect to, and sometimes you don't. So, well, I can't give you examples, but I can just go from previous experiences. And I don't particularly want to engage in an argument with you, because I have absolute respect for the armed forces and what they've given, to our country and our own community, and you know that I respect what you and all of the other representatives do. I just question the management of that day, and I question the fact whether we, as a town council, are appropriately putting our efforts to making sure that we're working appropriately with you, the armed forces community.
I understand.
Can I just add something there? Historically, the people that go on the dais, or the dais, or whatever you call it, are nominated by the Royal British Legion, who run the show anyway.
Right.
Right? That's historically.
Okay, well, historic, but we've got no note, or it's not evidence, there's no process for
That's
that.
because we've got no dialogue with you.
Well,
The
exactly.
armed forces have got no dialogue at all with the council.
Well, that proves my point even better than I could have done myself,
That's
doesn't
why
it?
we're here tonight,
Excellent.
to sort that out.
Thank you.
All right?
Yep.
Good.
But now I'd like to comment on that's 14 on the agenda, the election of the Armed Forces lead councillor. Over the last few years, I believe the relationship between the Royal British Legion, Royal Navy Association and Royal Marines Association and the wider Armed Forces family has definitely improved with Bude-Stratton Town Council, mainly under the past mayor's leadership, especially after the Bude-Stratton Alliance were no more and the Bude-Stratton Town Council signed the Armed Forces Covenant. Over the past year, Councillor Herbert Coulson has been, in our opinion, excellent lead councillor, and we'd like to put on record and thank her for her efforts. In May this year, I was made aware that the council meeting, that they would vote for a new lead councillor for the armed forces for the next 12 months. So after talking to the three associations, I sent an email to the chief clerk of Bude-Stratton Town Council to advise her we would be more than happy for Councillor Herbert Coulson to continue as lead councillor for the Armed Forces. I believed that the clerk would either send email to all councillors informing them before the vote, which would have been very important, of course, or mention it at the meeting before councillors were again asked to make the vote. She did not share this. I believe if councillors were made aware of our views, the Armed Forces community and the three associations, that Councillor Gibbs would never have been voted in as lead councillor. A few days later, I was made aware that Councillor Gibbs had in fact been lead councillor since February. Amazing to us, even though the clerk had never informed anyone from the three associations of him taking up the post. In Councillor Gibbs's mail to other members of the Bude-Stratton Council a few days later, where he stepped down as lead, he states, "I have been lead councillor since February, and that he had not received any messages of unhappiness in that role until now." Well, Councillor Gibbs, how the hell can we make any complaints about your appointment in February and since if we were never even informed by anyone from Bude-Stratton Town Council that you had taken over as lead councillor? And believe me, and the three associations would have vigorously made it aware to Bude-Stratton Town Council that under no circumstances would we accept you as lead councillor, and definitely not engage with you in the position making your position untenable. In my opinion, you new members would not engage with you due to your past experiences, especially when you verbally abused an RNA member in his shop in the town because he had sent a letter of complaint about you. Winding up, questions to Bude-Stratton Town Council need to answer for us to move forward. Why did the clerk not share my mail to councillors, as it would, in my opinion, change the vote for sure for the lead councillor? And who knows, maybe even the mayor. Why did Councillor Gibbs stand for lead councillor in the first place, knowing that the three associations would not support him? And why did he not share with the clerk that there might be problems with the three associations if he was the lead councillor? Or maybe he did. I believe these questions need to be answered, keyword there, need. And if there has been mistakes made by Bude-Stratton Town Council, that they need to be held to account. Thank you very much.
Right. I think I'll come in. You've got a couple of minutes to think. Joe, maybe. Obviously, when we appointed the lead councillor in February, I was mayor, so I think it's probably incumbent on me to address that. I'll own that. I don't know why you weren't informed specifically. We can look into that. But what I think, just making a few notes here, we've got two roles that are outward facing. One is lead councillor, which is very much, you're just a conduit for anybody, like I'm lead councillor for sports. I don't email every sports club in Bude-Stratton and say, hey, I'm Mike. Any emails that come into the staff regarding a sports club, they put them in contact with me. So that's kind of how the lead councillor role works. The second role we've got is actually representatives to outside bodies like the Twinning Association, I think we've mentioned the Harbour Society and things like that. From what you're saying, and I'm glad you acknowledge that we've improved relations, I kind of feel that as much as a lead councillor is very useful, you might benefit more from actually having an assigned councillor to an outside body in the same way, a proper representative who would come along to your meetings. So you would have the entire armed forces community could address the lead councillor if they've got any questions, but you would have a specific councillor effectively in your meetings at all times to work with you. I don't know what you think of that, whether you want to go away and discuss it. Obviously tonight, our item 14, we're going to appoint a lead councillor. We'll take on board what you've said about your preferences, obviously, and all of that lot. I mean, I can only apologise that you weren't informed. I don't, like I say, I don't know exactly why. I suspect it's probably because the lead councillor role, it's not a case of we inform everybody that there's going to change.
Why not?
Well,
email, you can do a standard email. I am so I am the lead
let me answer that. I did already answer it. How many sports clubs are there in Bude-Stratton? Exactly. So how would I know who to email that I'm the sports lead? But if they email in, this is the difference between the two roles. Whereas the Twinning Association, it's recently changed from me as ex-mayor to Tony, they would have been informed you have a new representative coming to your next meeting. And that's why I think, you know, it doesn't excuse, like I say, I do apologise for you not being informed. You should have been, you know, we should have done that.
We all come under the Royal British Legion.
Yeah, so
And
should,
you have to contact our secretary.
well, yeah, I know that, but then I'm not a member of any of your organisations and I'm a veteran. I'm a member of you South veterans. You probably know who we are. We take wounded service personnel, staffing and everything like that. Yeah, exactly. So, you know, that's another example of, you know, a broader picture. But under the RBL, would you like an assigned councillor as a representative outside of that?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I mean, I don't know whether we can do that tonight because of the agenda. Change it from a lead councillor to an assigned councillor as an outside representative.
What we'd like to do is have one person to represent the Royal British Legion, the Royal Naval Association, and the Royal Marines Association.
So that what
we've already spoke about that between ourselves.
right. So
that person can discuss with one member of the council any matters arising from us or from you.
yeah. So I think that's a representative to an outside body rather than a lead councillor, isn't it? We can change that agenda item, can't we? So we can change item 14 to that, and if that's what you want, that's what we can do. So I'm not going to get to, you know, how you got hold of emails that should have remained internal, I don't know. Regarding the dais and everything like that, you know, your assessment is correct. It's the King's representative, that's who we're all saluting on the day. You salute the rank, not the person. Both times I've been mayor, we've arranged for a representative to come in. One time it was Deputy Lord Lieutenant of Cornwall, the second time I think it was a high-ranking ex-Royal Navy person. I can't think of the name right now, which is slightly embarrassing. No, it's gone. Anyway, that's what we did. So I was second on the dais both times. Looking at Remembrance Sunday this year, if we assign you an outside councillor tonight, we can work on that together, have it all prepped in place, so there's no embarrassment up on the hill as to who's going where and what and doing everything. It's all arranged. I think I'll finish by saying we have built a good relationship. This has been a bump. I apologise for that. Can we move forward?
I'm sure we can.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I'll stop there. You know, I know you asked the mayor some questions, but I thought I'd better pick it up because it was me as mayor at the time.
I've got was there anything you wanted me to specifically answer in relation to that?
Yes, I said, first of all, I'd like to know why the clerk did not share my email.
Right, okay, if I can, see if I can go back to the beginning of this and explain what's happened administratively. So the election of the lead councillors, I don't want to get this wrong, happened in February, as became clear later. In the May meeting, we had a sheet of paper in front of us for the, in order to appoint the representatives on outside bodies, and there were two sections. One was related to the lead councillors who had actually already been appointed in February, and that shouldn't really have been in front of us on that night, on May, because that caused a little bit of confusion. That's an internal admin issue. So what we shouldn't really have been looking at that, because those roles were already in place. And then, so we then went ahead and elected the representatives on outside bodies. There was reference made, however, to the lead councillors because it was all on that page. And just going back to that February meeting, so at that meeting, the only nomination for that role of lead councillor in relation to the armed forces was actually Councillor Gibbs.
I didn't put myself forward anyway, it might be nominated.
Yeah, but
I didn't ask to do it.
So at the time, in
I
February.
appreciate what you're saying, but my question is, why did you not share my email in May?
Right, okay, so just
It
go.
would have surely affected the board.
Can I answer, because it wasn't relevant. But as has just been explained, there's two things. There's a lead councillor role and there's a representative on an outside body. The lead councillor role had already been chosen in February.
Okay, so that wasn't what we were doing in the May on the May meeting, so it wasn't relevant. So you're asking us to do something that we'd already done in February. And to be absolutely clear, I didn't nominate myself to be the lead veteran, the lead councillor for veterans. The mayor nominated me and I was elected unanimously. Okay, so that's the first thing that's really important. I didn't ask to do it. I was elected, democratically elected
But
by
surely
this
that
council.
was a time to mention that the animosity that.
Well, I would like to think,
against yourself.
I would like to think, as a 45-year veteran,
You
as a
mentioned that.
45-year veteran, I would like to think that the organisations that are set up to support people like me would be willing enough to accept the fact that whilst we don't necessarily agree eye to eye, that what we're not having is this level of animosity. I'd like to think that, but clearly that's not the case, and that's absolutely fine. Right? This is your choice, not mine.
So you
That's fine.
You
Okay.
defended your actions against verbally abusing one of our members.
Okay, what I'm not going to do is get into a long conversation about what happened for 12 months that's got nothing to do with this council. Okay, I'm not going to do that. I wasn't acting as a councillor at that point. I wasn't even on the council at that point, and I certainly wasn't the mayor. Okay, now I'm quite happy to talk to any of you about all of the events that led up to that, because that's between us. It's got nothing to do with this council. It's got nothing to do with my election as mayor, and it's got nothing to do with my election as lead for the armed forces. Now, I stepped down because I agree with you. What I don't want is this level of animosity in this room. It's unnecessary and it doesn't help anybody. This is exactly why I stepped down. Okay? Now, that leaves the place open now for somebody else to do it. Now, that's a democratically elected position by this council. They're the people who choose. We are your democratically elected leaders in this town. This council has a process to do it, and that's what gets applied. And that's what was applied in February, and that's why I was elected. Okay, we take your point into account. I have no problem with that. But what I'm going to keep saying to you is the point that you were making for our meeting in May wasn't relevant, because we weren't selecting a lead councillor for the armed forces in May. We were electing representatives on outside bodies, which are a totally separate thing, of which we still don't have one for the armed forces, although we're going to change that tonight, which is what we've already agreed to do. So it wasn't relevant, which is why it wasn't shared, because it wouldn't have been something that would have come to the council, because it didn't matter, because we weren't doing it.
These words bewilder me. It doesn't.
Well, you'd be asked for an answer.
It matters to us.
I know, it matters to me. I mean, it matters to me as the mayor. Right? It matters to me, absolutely, that what we're doing as a council is correct, and we're democratic and we're open about it. I'm trying to give you the answer. It's not straightforward. I agree with you. It's not straightforward. It's complicated. I get it. Okay, but we're trying to put it forward in a reasonable way. The email that you sent was asking about the election for lead councillor for the armed forces. Unfortunately, because of the confusion, that isn't what we did on that May meeting. It wasn't on the agenda. The agenda item was for selection of representatives to outside bodies. It's not the same thing. And as already been made clear, the election for lead councillor for the armed forces was actually made in February. Okay? And I didn't nominate myself for that. I'm going to keep saying it.
Again, we didn't know about that.
No, okay, and again, that's been explained. That might have been an error, but it's not something we ordinarily do. We don't inform any area of who the lead councillors are. We publish it, and then what we do is rely on those bodies to come to us to talk to us about it. So I'm the lead councillor myself, and Pat down the end there, lead councillor for the economy. We don't go around and tell every shop that that's what we are, but what we do is publicise it. So if people want to come and talk to us about it, it's on there. It's on our website. It's on the entrance in the hallway. We make it clear as much as we can. But what we don't do, because we haven't decided to do it, okay, to nominate lead councillors for these positions and then nominate everybody or let everybody know that is what we're doing. We've never done that. We don't do it with any other body either. If you're telling us we need to do it in the future, of course we can consider that. But that wasn't something that we deliberately overlooked, because we don't do it anyway.
Yeah. Okay, can we leave it there? Can I just say one thing before I share? Firstly, I don't think I've got an answer from the clerk why she didn't share it. And secondly, I don't think the armed forces community, when we talk that, totally understand how you thought you could stand as our representative.
Well, I'll tell you why. Because I'm not here as a councillor representing your particular bodies. I'm trying to represent every veteran in this town. And I know for a fact that not every veteran are members of your group. And I know that. So therefore, right, it seems appropriate that as a 45-year veteran, that what I'm able to do is represent all members of the armed forces community in this town, whether they're members of your associations or not. Now, what we just decided to do
is by making a representative to your body. It's what we're actually doing. You're saying excluding all of the veterans like me who are not members of your organisations. How do I get a voice? Who do I get it with? How am I represented by this council?
Have one of each.
Well, there you go.
You're going to have a representative as of tomorrow.
No, I'm not. Because what we're doing, what we've agreed to do.
You've had the opportunity before, Tony.
No, hang on a minute.
When you were the chair of the Royal Navy.
Just bear with me. Just bear with me. What we've just agreed to do is to elect a representative for the armed forces community to your organisation specifically, via the British Legion. Now, for those of us who aren't, and there's quite a lot of members of the armed forces community in this town who are not members of any of your communities, how do they get a voice?
Did that elected person do that?
No, it's not how it works. Yeah, because this is what you've asked for. So my question is, as a 45-year veteran, where's my voice being heard? Whether you like me or not, it's irrelevant. I'm still a veteran as much as anybody else, and my voice deserves I deserve a voice as much as anyone else does. And having a lead councillor provides that. Having a representative doesn't. But that's your choice.
I think the best thing to do is to appoint a representative for those outside bodies that will work with those three organisations, go to those meetings and report that to this council and be their point of contact. And I think perhaps we can also have a lead councillor for armed services to then encompass everybody within Bude-Stratton. And I think that is the best
That's the way to do it.
That's why we're here.
Fine. Okay, so we can do that. Peter.
Thanks. I'm sort of surprised at the level of emotion that you're bringing to this day, because it's all stuff that doesn't have to be quite as angry as it feels. But I've just had a quick look on my emails. There might be more than one, but I've just picked on one. And this is an email that I think you sent on the 6th of May from your private email account. And it says it's addressed to the clerk of the council, and it says, seeing as it's the elections this Thursday, we were hoping that Vicky Herbert will stay as the point of contact for the armed forces community, and we'd like to thank her for her efforts over the years. There are several things about this. First of all, it doesn't say anything about you don't want Tony. So
Well, we didn't say we didn't want Paul Dilty, no.
well, no. But that's the inference that you're making. That's the inference that you're making. But that's fine. I understand that. But I wanted to understand part. This is the whole point of why I'm standing up and saying this, because she has received an email from a private individual, not an email account that is a formal account attached to an organisation. So it could simply be just your opinion, not supported by the group. She's not to know that. So I would say she probably was quite right in not bringing it to the council. If you had given her an email from a formal account with authority, demonstrating that your groups had discussed this and it was a minuted, you could bring that forward and make that statement, and you could expect that to be faithfully represented to the town council. But an email from a private address, I think she was probably quite right not to bring it forward.
That's absolutely level of because obviously Tony knows I am, and I'm
We're
now
not
sure that
but to be clear, I never saw it.
No, I didn't.
Right, so when I
knows who I am.
Yeah, I know they do, but I didn't see it before we had the meeting. So why? Because it hadn't been shared. So when I know you are not,
It wasn't shared, but it should have been.
no, it's well, what difference? I've already explained it, and I think Peter's explained it as well in a different way.
So I'll just correct Peter's comment. We're not allowed to have a British Legion or a Royal Marine Association email address. We're not allowed to have it.
No, but you've got letterheads. You can put RBL on it, surely. I mean, just sending an email from a private email address with a load of comments on it, it's quite difficult for us as council. You can imagine how many emails we get, and for the clerk to have to sift those and decide whether those things need to be made public or not, it's almost impossible.
Well, the way we say it is in the body, I'm representing Bude Royal Level Association or Bude British.
Sorry, I think in defence of that, and I'll take Peter's point, but I really do think it's incumbent on us to know who these people are. We should know who these people are. So I think it's on us to do the work and make sure we do know who they are and try and put this all somewhere behind us if we can. Because I know who you are now. I've seen you at quite a few meetings. I've seen you about the town, and I associate you with your representation of the armed forces in your job. So I think we should really know who they are, to be fair.
Yeah, I don't think others.
As a council.
No, I don't dispute that, but I need to move on, and we only normally allow 15 minutes for the public, so we're already well into that now. So, I'd just also like to reiterate the same as what Peter said. I'm quite disappointed that, again, we're sending emails between ourselves as councillors, and they seem to be getting shared, really without authorisation. And we've got to be able to share information between ourselves without having fear or favour of it going elsewhere that seems inappropriate and leaves us in an embarrassing situation afterwards. It seems entirely unnecessary to do that. So I'd like us all to have a bit of a think about that, because it's quite appropriate. Anyway, moving on. Just about.
I listened to this with confusion and astonishment both, really. Now, somebody said that you don't make a point of contacting the individual organisations. You also said that you do make a point of contacting the Twinning Association. Now, I have no idea why you think the Twinning Association is more important than the Veterans Association.
Sorry, you're completely misrepresenting what I said. I used that as an example of the Twinning Association have an outside representative, so they have an assigned person who is part of that association effectively. They are in the association, whereas a lead councillor is outside of it, and they deal with all of it. Like I said, if I use myself as an example, I'm the lead councillor for sport. So any organisation doing anything sporty, if they look on the website, they know, that's probably the best councillor to talk to.
Okay.
Whereas if I was on the board of Bude Football Club or Bude Rugby Club as an example, I would be an outside representative on that board. So there would be a direct link between us. And if I stood down, the football club would be told, you have a new representative who will be coming to your meetings. Whereas the lead councillor, it would just change and the point of contact changes. I know it's very fine nuance and a lot of people outside of it
you
don't get
mentioned
it.
then standing down, so...
Sorry, I should have done all of that through the chair.
Yeah, you have.
You mentioned standing down, so should the British Legion, one of the military associations, have been told of the change?
No, because at the moment they have a lead councillor, so it's not somebody within their organisation. As of item 14, but if I may make a suggestion, can we bump it up the agenda? Because then we can get this dealt with and everyone can hopefully do. As of that item, whenever we decide to deal with it, they will now have somebody who attends all of their meetings, and if that person changes, they will be informed and will probably be asked what they feel about the next choice.
Right. I think that's really important that you do get.
So I feel like I'm still the man.
No,
sorry, Tony, I've not done any of this through you.
I'm more than happy.
I really do think, as a non-military person, that it is important that you have an assigned person to these important organisations. It should have been done ages ago. And I'm just going to refer to one more thing. Last month, I mentioned in a little pep talk, as I looked at it, to the new council, and I referred to a situation where council representatives on another body, in my view, didn't inform this council correctly of what was going on. And that organisation made a very serious complaint against one of your members that took 5 months to investigate. It was found completely unfounded, the complaint made. But, as I mentioned, for 5 months, the public were denied representation of that councillor because he was under investigation for reasons that turned out to be utter nonsense. And I said I didn't want to see denial of democracy for the people of this town, again, by failure of information. I actually look at this as another example of a failure of information. And I will only stress that I think it is absolutely critical that you get representatives on with these people.
I take your point, and I think you're entirely right. And there's always lessons to be learned from any of these things that come forward. And of course, what we plan to do, like we do with everything, is adapt and change and make sure that we meet the needs of our community. So, and we've already demonstrated that. We're already going to change. We've already changed the agenda item for this evening, and we're already adapting that as we speak. So, yeah, absolutely take that forward.
If I could just make one final point just going into my mind. My feeling is that the advice that was given to the clerk should have been before the because in my view, if I'd been a councillor and I'd known of the information that the clerk had in front of her, that would have affected my voting. So I think there was a question of answer there. And that's it.
Does anyone want to respond to that?
No, but I did want to comment on something else.
No, just hang on a minute. So,
yeah, I was going to say, obviously, I take your point, the same as Tony did. We are going to correct this wrong. The lines of communication and expecting 5,000 people to know the difference between a lead councillor and a signed councillor to an outside body. Yeah, we probably could make that clearer. I think we will attempt to do. Again, I apologise, Stella. I apologise for my part in this. Now, I was mayor when we changed the lead councillors. We probably, with a little bit of thought, should have treated you differently. Even though it was only a lead councillor role, we could have approached your organisations. I apologise for that. Okay. As to, we've got members of staff in the room now. You've asked questions of them. We are not in a position, we would not be good employers if we discussed the pros and cons, the rights and wrongs of staff behaviour. That is an internal thing that needs to be dealt with confidentially. I'm sure you understand the way employment law works. So none of us can really get into that now. Okay, I know that sounds like it's bothering you off, but we're genuinely not. We cannot talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm making it as a point of awareness affecting democracy. If you're not aware of things that can affect the vote, in my view, that's wrong.
Just one last comment. I'll just say, I'll take that point on board as well. I'm sure lessons will be learned. Some lessons have already been learned. There are other lessons to be learned, and I'm sure they will be. Are you happy with that?
Thank you for that.
Yeah, I was going to make a very similar point to Mike. Yeah, if we're honest, we can look back over this and we can find errors. But I think there's a big difference between a deliberate withholding of information that would skew a vote and some misunderstanding over the exact nature of an email and whether a lead councillor is being appointed or a representative to an outside body. So to me, yeah, there's obviously been errors, but they've been errors made in good faith. There's no hidden agenda. If I felt for a moment that there was some kind of agenda against the veterans groups or against a particular councillor around this table, then I'd be the first to jump up and down and shout about it. And if I felt information was being deliberately and inappropriately withheld, then I'd be the first to jump up and down and make a fuss about it. I may not be everybody's favourite councillor, but I think it's at least clear that I speak my mind. And I think the best that we can do is draw a line, learn the lessons and move on.
Thank you, Councillor Cole.
Okay. So, Tom?
Yeah, I just wanted to address the issue raised about code of conduct and that sort of stuff. I have several times here raised concerns about the manner in which code of conduct complaints are assessed. We were supposed to have a working group here set up last year ago, February. It never met, but that's by the by now. But I would just point out that actually the existence of a code of conduct complaint against a councillor does not prevent them from doing their work. No. So that's a misconception. The councillor who you referred to was not prevented from doing what they're doing.
I would like to move on. my final point about this, like I say, there's always lessons to be learned from all of this, and we will. I do find it quite disappointing, though, it's been brought up several times, that the outcome, that there's some sort of link between that email that came in that doesn't actually mention my name at all. My name's never mentioned in any of these emails. That somehow that we're supposed to derive as a democratic body, that if that email had been shared, that in some way that would have affected my election as mayor. I find that almost impossible to believe. Bearing in mind my name is never on that email anyway. So how any councillor in this room would have drawn a conclusion about my suitability as mayor or not, I don't know how that would have happened. But anyway, I'm not going to deal with any more of this. We've been doing it for 45 minutes. Okay, so I am going to move on. I'm moving on.
So you're denying us?
No. I'm moving on from this particular subject. What? Okay.
I was going to speak about the last meeting, and I said to you, you've gone on too long, and I'd leave it to this meeting.
I didn't anticipate this, to be honest, so I'm sorry about that. But if you'd like to make a comment, I'm more than willing.
No, because it'll take too long.
I'm sorry, but we have to deal with what's in front of us.
Yeah, you have to.
Thank you.
You know what I'm going to bring up, so.
Can I ask Mr. Mayor, what's the point of item 17 on the agenda?
Yeah, I can answer that. So that item is on the agenda in order for me to be able to bring any urgent information which I have received as correspondence after the agenda has been issued. So as you probably know, the agenda is set in stone once it's issued. It has to be issued a certain number of days before the meeting. And we cannot have an item such as any other business on the agenda because everything that we are planning to discuss as a council needs to be clear on the agenda in advance so that any members of the public can see it and then are in a position to come along to the meeting if it's something of interest to them. So that item is a sort of catch-all item which is on the agenda just in case there's something urgent that I need to convey to you that's coming a couple of days before the actual meeting.
Any other business, in other words?
Sorry?
In other words, is any other business?
I think you'll find it isn't because it's hardly ever used. If you see what I mean, in that I very rarely bring items unless it's of something of pressing urgency.
Right.
The clerk decides if it's urgent.
Okay.
Well, I just find it funny that we've just had 45 minutes of people discussing something that they felt should have been brought up at the meeting. You have a place to put it in the meeting. Why wasn't it brought up, even if it was done after votes had been taken?
I think we'd explain this, but yeah.
I think my understanding is that the email was sent in May, but the vote for the lead councillor for the armed forces was taken in February. Is that right?
Yes, correct.
Right, so.
But from my recollection of that meeting, you actually had something on saying about lead councillors, and you then went back and said there was no point in discussing because we had already done it in February. But it was on the agenda, so it was relevant. So you were not given it was.
Can I do it? It was.
And I want to ask another question, Mr. Mayor, after that, please.
Okay, so I'd like to respond. I need to move on because we need to get onto the agenda. Okay, and to be absolutely clear, it was not on the agenda. Right, the representations for lead councillors were not on the agenda. It was representatives on outside bodies. So again, and I think we've been around this several times now. I think the explanation's been given more than once. I know it's confusing and I know it's complicated, and we appreciate that, but that is the fact. The fact was that the agenda item was relating to representatives on outside bodies and not to lead councillors. And we've selected the lead councillor for the armed forces in February, so it wasn't relevant. And I think we've said that probably about 8 or 9 times already. So I'm not sure how many more times we need to say it. Do you have any further questions?
I'd like to ask if there anything else has been hidden from councillors so they can make their democratic choices. And that's my final say.
I take exception to the implication that your officers of this council are behaving inappropriately and unprofessionally. And I would like to remind everyone in the room that we are all bound by the code, if you like, of civility and respect that this council has signed up to the pledge, and that we are all to behave appropriately and kindly to each other. So I really do take exception to that, and I hope there are no other insinuations that my behaviour is not being appropriate.
I think suggesting in some way that our staff are behaving in an undemocratic fashion. Anyway, I think we can interpret however we want.
I just asked if there was anything else hidden.
Well, clearly not. Jeremy.
I think one of the many lessons from this situation that I take away, I'm confused, and I'm sure other people therefore are confused at the difference between lead councillor and appointments to outside bodies. It seems to me they're one and the same.
No, they're not, and that's the problem.
Show my ignorance. To me, as a common person, I cannot see the difference, and so some of this confusion would have been alleviated by not having two things. Now, I'm sure I'll be put right. I'm happy to be put right, but my shoulders are broad enough to put it on the table that actually I think it's a recipe for confusion.
I'd agree with you, and I think that's a piece of work that we need to do. I think we all know, having been sort of working together now for a year, there's an awful lot of work that needs to be done in various areas, and this is clearly one of them. And we are going to be tackling these issues as we move forward. And that's really all I can say on it. So hopefully we're going to resolve that and we're going to move on. Okay. Thank you.
Well, I'll leave mine till next time.
Thank you. I'll make sure
he's first. Yeah, you're
These gentlemen here have more important things than I've got.
But I'll make sure you're first.
All right?
Yeah. Thanks for coming. Yeah. Okay, let's move on. To receive item 3.
I think he's got to do number 14.
So item 3, let me move on first. Okay, item 3, the receive apologies and accept reasons for non-attendance.
Yes, councillors, Mr Richards and Sampson, who are both slightly unwell.
Okay. Item 4, to receive declarations of interest on items on the agenda and agree any dispensations. Okay, so I'd like to move item 14 up to item 5.
Good.
Do we need a vote on that, or do we? Can we just
arbitrarily
choosing to do it? Right, we're doing that. Okay, so the item now to appoint a representative for the Armed Forces community. So that is in effect to the British Legion, the RNA, and to the Royal Marines Association. And we'll do that first, and then we'll do as a lead councillor as well, I assume.
I would have thought so, yeah. I was just going to come in, obviously we're changing this to a representative. I personally, I know you stated otherwise, I think one person could do both roles. Personally. Exactly, otherwise we're going to end up in another situation where there's two silos of information and it takes one email not to get seen or exchanged at the right time, and we end up.
Okay, so
we basically want one point of contact. That's what we want.
That one?
Yes.
I propose, Councillor.
I'll second that. If she's happy.
Let's just make sure we know what we're doing.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're being asked to appoint a lead councillor and representative to outside bodies for the armed forces. Is that?
It'll be lead. My proposal would be we pick. I'm going to nominate Councillor Howard, of course, since I can't type your name now, as a representative to the RBL, which is what you asked for, and also lead councillor for the armed forces.
Okay.
I just wanted to confirm what the organisations were.
Yeah, so it was the RBL you asked for,
It's just going to be the RBL, would be the...
No, we want a representative from the council to speak with a representative from the
All three associations.
Royal British Legion, the Royal Rangers Association, and the Royal Navy Association.
Right, that's my proposal.
I'll second.
Councillor Herbert Coulson, outside to all three of those, plus lead councillor for the armed forces.
I'll second that.
Yeah? Yeah, cool.
You only have to read once you tell one, they told everything.
Yeah, that's fine.
So
Yeah.
one person will be attending all of those different meetings, every single, however.
No.
So that's what I mean.
We will appoint between us, ourselves, one member to meet with your member. And that our one member will represent the Royal British Legion, the Royal Rangers Association, and the Royal
That's
Navy
what a
Association.
lead councillor is for,
Yeah,
not a representative.
Now, we're going to do that. So we've got one member that represents all three.
Okay, all right.
Is that?
Ken?
So you don't have to do it 3 times, you have to do it once.
Yeah, I'm just, this may sound very, I'll use a technical term, wanky, but a representative to a body is literally that. That councillor becomes part of the body. So, for example, if we've got a representative on Bude Canal and Harbour Society, they are a member of Bude Canal and Harbour Society. They attend the Bude and Harbour Society meetings and they can speak at those meetings. Now, it seems to me that the point of contact that you're talking about is a little bit different. So what you really do want is actually a lead councillor, but to have that lead councillor's sort of name publicised to your three organisations so they can be the point of contact. You don't necessarily want that councillor attending your meetings.
So what you want is a lead councillor, because then what you would be told is this is the lead councillor, and you would be able to contact that lead councillor whenever you want to. You can meet with them individually. For example, I'm lead councillor for youth provision, so every young person in the whole town can find me and contact me and the families, organisations, whatever, rather than just, because a representative would come to your meetings, be part of your group, and all of that, but that's not what you want.
At the end of the day, we just want dialogue with the council. So they want.
Lead councillor.
So that is a
Lead councillor.
I'm confused.
I've got to stand up there. Why don't we just say that we're going to appoint a councillor to these organisations where they can talk to each other and come back and report to us. A councillor.
Well done.
That is a lead councillor.
That's the lead councillor.
That's what we call it, lead councillor. But that's what we
It's important for us, Pat, that we know what it is.
Yeah, so we're going to appoint one councillor.
As a lead.
As a lead councillor.
It's important. Yeah, I get it, right, okay.
It should be the armed forces representative, in my opinion.
Yes. So that's,
I'm just like, having done the role before, it worked very well. Graham, I can't remember his surname. That's it. We used to meet up every so often, have a chit chat, discuss anything that needed discussing, emails, and we tried.
what were you, councillor?
Lead councillor.
Lead councillor.
Yeah. So,
Right, so the proposal.
And that was at a
is-
time when there was a lot of difficulty.
So the proposal is that we elect a lead councillor for the armed forces.
yeah.
We're back to where it was in the past.
Yeah, it's always been proposed and seconded.
Well, it actually, that wasn't what the proposal is. So the proposal now is to
No, I haven't
represent.
amended my proposal yet.
Okay, but because the original proposal was for a representative and a lead councillor at the same time. We're now saying it's just the lead councillor.
Yes, it's just the lead councillor.
What do you lot want?
We've just said that.
Just a lead councillor.
A councillor.
Yeah, lead councillor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lead councillor.
Right, so we'll go back to a lead councillor, yeah.
Right, so the proposal is that we elect a lead councillor for the armed forces. Okay,
Well said.
right, and okay, and the nomination, do we have any nominees?
I've nominated councillor Herbert Coulson.
Okay,
Yeah.
do we have anyone else?
I've seconded that one.
Do we have anyone else? No. Okay, so can we put that to a vote, please? Those four. Those against? Those abstaining? Okay.
Can I just say, it would seem to be like going into a shark attack.
There we are. Okay. Moving on.
Thank you.
Enjoy your evening.
It's a little longer than I thought.
First time, that's on the office.
Wow. Oh, there we go, okay.
And me. Anyway, right, okay, so, moving on.
Can I just say, well done, Chair?
Yeah, well, it wasn't quite.
Wasn't easy, it wasn't easy. Yeah.
I will say, for yourself, Vicky, that the Cornwall Council are signing the Armed Forces Covenant in, this month. I've suggested we should do that along with them, because we've signed the Armed Forces Covenant here, and we should be alongside Cornwall Council signing. There's the ability to go to Cornwall Council and do that alongside them, along with 6 or 7 other councils in Cornwall that are doing that this month.
What date?
22nd of June. Sorry, 22nd of June. I'll talk to you about that later. I'll be talking to them about that.
Good, right, okay, so moving on, item 6 now, receive the Mayor's report. First month, Mayor of Bude-Stratton Town Council was a bit of a whirlwind of activity and not quite what I expected, I don't think, at the outset. Anyway, I've had the honour and the pleasure of representing you and this Town Council at the Future Coast View public engagement event on Saturday the 9th of May. Fascinating to hear our community views, the ideas being put forward. It was also so inspiring to see and hear about how the Future Coast View project has made such a difference to the young people involved in it. On the same day, I also attended the 70th anniversary of the Bude Council Research Committee. In that time, they raised around £750,000 for council research. That's all been done locally over 7 years. It's absolutely extraordinary what they've done. It's a great honour to hear how this group provides so much support for those affected by cancer locally, and also when I saw them doing their coffee morning a couple of days ago here as well. It's incredible what they've managed to do. They've been continuously operating for 70 years. Amazing. On the 13th of May, I attended the pre-opening reception held for the organisers and supporters of Bude Literary Festival. It's great to see this in the hands of Richard Walford and Brown and his team, continuing to grow and becoming an increasingly important event on the cultural calendar, not just locally, but nationally too. And it's also worth recognising that the genesis for that event was actually done in this room. It was a committee meeting in this room that came up with that initial idea that they've taken on and developed. On the 19th of May, we had the annual town meeting. We heard from our guest speaker, Chris Jones, about the potential and positive impact of beaver reintroduction into the River Neat catchment area. We had an excellent presentation from the library about the huge range of activities provided by them. And we also heard from our two of our senior retained firefighters about the work they do and why the extension to the fire station is so important. On the 27th of May, I had the privilege of representing this council at the annual mayor-making ceremony in St Austell. It was an interesting evening to see and hear about how other towns and parish council organise this type of event. And it was also very helpful to speak with a wide range of mayors from across Cornwall. On the 29th of May, I was invited to attend the meeting organised by Ben Maguire with Gideon Amos. He's the MP for Taunton and Wellington and the Lib Dem Housing and Community spokesperson. He provided the Lib Dem perspective on the provision of housing and planning matters. Also present were Lee Frost, the Cornwall Council leader, Peter as the Cornwall Council portfolio holder, and Cornwall Council senior planning officers and other leaders of towns and parish councils across the county. It was interesting to hear about how these challenges are set by the government's planning strategists and how Cornwall Council is dealing with those. And it was an interesting sort of couple of hours, really. To be frank, it was a bit of a party political broadcast, really. It was about really how the Lib Dems would do things if they were in power, and how the Labour government are not really doing a particularly good job of organising planning. I think what really came out of it for me, though, was the fact that you've got a Labour government which are effectively taking the brakes off of planning. And the problem that that's causing them, not just here but across the country, is how the various county councils and whatever deal with that. And they're being left in a really impossible position. I mean, Cornwall Council are being expected to build more houses than they've ever built ever, and it's just not feasible. And it's also exacerbated down here because of our geography. It's actually physically getting the kit down here to build the houses. It's having the people down here to build them. And all of these things are creating a huge problem. We know we've got a housing crisis down here, but the Labour government just taking the brakes off don't really solve it. It's much more complicated than that, as we know, because it's also about infrastructure. It's also about doctors, dentists, transport, and none of these things are generally connected up. I have to say, hearing it from the strategic planners in Cornwall Council and from the leader, I'm not politically motivated one way or the other, but I wouldn't want their job. That's for certain. Trying to fix this is incredibly difficult, and I certainly don't envy Peter's job trying to put all that together either. You can make a comment on that when you come in your bit if you want, Peter. Along with Katie, on the 6th of June, we also attended the 30th anniversary of the Neatside Community Centre. It was a real pleasure to speak to the various users of that centre, and of course, the Berries Avenue Community Cafe. What was really inspiring about that is the difference that is actually making to people's lives in the community, not only the people that are using it, but also the volunteers that were involved. It's actually making a massive and genuine difference to them. And the work that the Neatside do in pulling all of that together is really quite extraordinary. It's a fantastic day. It was really interesting to hear what people have got to say about that. Katie and I over this month also been to every department on the town council and met with just about every member of staff that we've got, just to make sure they know who we are. And we've also been to all of the committee meetings this month as well, just to see how that's going. We're at. Thank you very much. Just 1 second, Chris. Katie, would you like to?
Yeah. Some of it is going to be repetitive, I'm afraid. I was asked by the Mayor to put some words together, and they are a little similar, but I have done some different things. On the 9th of May, I went along to the Future Coast Views Community Conversation event. I stayed for the whole event talking to local people about the various options, what Future Coast Views are all about, and I spent a lot of time talking about toilets. I also got to spend more time with the Youth Board, which is an outstanding example of what can be achieved when we listen to, work with and support our young people in the right way. On the 13th of May, I attended the opening evening of the Bude Lit Fest alongside the Mayor, and a few of you were also there. This was a great atmosphere that night, and it continued all weekend. Bude was buzzing, and the event grows year on year. It's definitely putting Bude-Stratton on the map for arts and culture. On the 16th of May, I welcomed Bude Twinning Association and our wonderful friends from Bude Berwick. We shared with them the work that has been going on with Future Coast Bude, talked about the upcoming anniversary and our hopes of the 2 town councils working together and learning from each other. Just an interesting fact, did you know that it's actually a requirement for the council there to have 50% male and 50% female? I think we can all learn a lot when we work together and listen to others from all walks of life. On the 17th of May, I was honoured to attend Stratton Memorial and lay a wreath on behalf of the council. The weather wasn't on our side, but it didn't stop people from attending. Janine did a fantastic job, as always, in organising this yearly event. I heard some wonderful stories and history and spent quite some time with our archivist volunteers. I'll be spending the day with them soon, as they are a vital part of our Heritage Centre, something that we wouldn't be able to have without them. On the 21st of May, I attended Launceston Mayoral Choosing event, and what an event it was. Glorious weather, wonderful people, great conversations. It was so interesting to see what other councils do and how they work, and it gave me food for thought when thinking about how we work together as a council. It also made me think about the potential of BSTC holding event similar, not exactly the same, obviously, sometime in the future. Building relationships with other towns and councils is so important for learning, growing, sharing and feeling a part of this great county. Just because we are geographically out on our own doesn't mean we have to close ourselves off completely. On the 6th of June, myself and the Mayor attended Bude-Stratton Community Project's 30th birthday event. That's the Neatside and Berries Cafe. What a wonderful celebration of an organisation that Bude-Stratton could not do without. They were joined by community groups, local businesses and organisations who all rely on BSCP. It was wonderful to listen to everyone, and I really appreciated just how much these people and these places are loved and needed. And as the Mayor has already said, we've met with all the staff. We went along to a Chamber of Commerce AGM. I visited the Men's Shed New Workshop. We attended the annual town meeting, all the committee meetings and the Future Coast Bude briefing last week.
Thank you. Chris.
Yes, listen, thank you. Just a couple of things. Can someone confirm that Councillor Tilsey is still a representative to the Harbour Society? He has been in the past.
I haven't that's changed, hasn't it?
I'm quite happy to be, but I'd like to know when the meetings are.
Yeah. For his information, we meet on the second Wednesday.
Oh, not the second Wednesdays.
The third Wednesday.
Second Wednesdays. Where?
Here's your place, in the Falcon,
Oh, I see there.
residents,
Good, okay, yeah. You're still allowed. I'm surprised you're still allowed. However, right, second Wednesday.
yeah. And the other thing is that on Heritage Day,
Yes.
the 19th of July,
Yes.
we will have a stall in Art Public Hall. Would it be possible for either yourself or your deputy to wear your chains and visit us?
It would be an honour.
Yes.
Of course.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Tom?
Given earlier contributions, you'll be pleased to know that I would like to take this opportunity to say a huge thank you to yourself, Mr. Mayor. In spite, we have our differences, as we all do sometimes, but when somebody does something out of, that goes out of their way I think it should be recognised. So I want to say a huge thank you for the generosity of your comments in relation to my role in bringing the Heel Valley Trail into public ownership. That it meant a lot to hear those words. Incidentally, it was that meeting clashed with the Mount Church Parish Council annual parish meeting and annual parish council meeting, where there was no recognition whatsoever of my role by anybody. The chair, the council chairperson, nobody mentioned the role that I had played in that, which I think, without beating myself up too much, I think I did put a lot of effort into it. So thank you again for your comments.
It's a pleasure, Tom. I mean, it's worthy recognition. It's a shame, obviously, within your own parish council, they're clearly not prepared to do that. But I think that obviously your contribution to that in relation to the community here in Bude deserves recognition. So there's no problem at all.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure. Any questions relating to any of that? No. Okay, so we'll move on to note reports from Common Councils. Who'd like to go first?
Faye wants to go first.
Faye would like to go first.
I'll start with the bad thing. I've had confirmation that charging at the Housebridge car park in Stratton will be introduced in early July. I don't have a specific date yet. And as I think I've probably explained before, there will be an hour free, but you will need to get a ticket for that hour. And after that, there's a charge of £2, which will be valid for the rest of the day. Charging applies between 9 and 4, so there's no charge overnight. And there is an annual permit available for £150, but obviously that doesn't guarantee a space. And I've had no information on whether any work to the car park is going to be carried out. I doubt it will be this time of year, but anyway. Oh, and the machine will accept cash. I did make the point that mobile reception and everything would be good. Just a reminder of the Bude Bus Users Day on the 19th of June in the morning at the Strand bus stop and the Crescent car park. And there is a dentistry summit on the 17th of July, and there's a call for people to email in on Let's Talk Cornwall, I think, of any questions or issues they want to raise that can be looked at as part of that. If anyone was planning on attending the Cormac meeting, which was due to be here on the 30th of June, they've decided to cancel the Bude one because they didn't have enough sign up, unfortunately.
What was that for?
It was a sort of a chance to meet with Cormac staff about how they work. No, staff.
No, it was just about staff in general. But
it was more about, I think, how they operate and that kind of thing, a chance to talk to them rather than a specific project they've carried out. But we wanted to make people aware in case anyone had signed up, because some people have, but I don't know who they are.
Sorry, Dave.
I think the 20 mile an hour speed limit, there have been some signs that have appeared around Bude, but not everywhere yet. So it's still ongoing.
Is it legal straight away? Is it legal? As soon as the signs are up, it's legal.
I think it's legal before the signs go up.
Well, that's a guess. That's a guess. Oh, interesting.
And that's all I have.
Thank you.
Yes, with regard, you did say there will be charges at the Heelbridge car park.
No,
No.
Howells Bridge. in
Howells,
Stratton.
yeah, not Hill Bridge. Relax.
Yeah. It's an hour free, and after that it's £2 for the whole day.
People of Bude find out that I was going to be hell up, didn't they? And they got to pay for the hour.
Charging early prime between 9.
Eh? Yeah, well, I think the people of Bude deserve the same.
Don't worry, it won't stay at that level for very long.
The people of Bude are complaining, it'll change.
Yeah.
They'll complain at all.
I mean, they got to pay night times to pay in the Crescent car park.
Yeah.
Stratton are getting free night parking.
Well, you know what they're all going to go now, don't you?
Yeah, most of Bude will be in Stratton.
They'll all be.
Well, they haven't done that. I wouldn't have thought so. Isn't that a little odd,
It's good to see Councillor Jennings taking interest in things that happen at Stratton.
Okay, moving on.
You wait and see. You wait and see what the people of Bude find out what they think.
Right. Done?
Hey? Yeah, I've got a bit for you in a minute.
All right, thank you. Muras Canaria. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you. Gorthugadar. Good evening, everyone. Those are phrases in Kernuit Cornish, but I'm really pleased that Cornwall Council is pressing the Fifth Nation agenda and also making the most of our unique language, which makes Cornwall stand out, and it will enable us.
Can I learn Cornish?
You can go online. There is a podcast, and which you can listen to. And I've listened to the podcast about 3 times over because none of it's sticking in my mind. And I use it when I'm driving down to Truro. It's quite entertaining actually because there's lots of interviews with Cornish people. So if you go on the BBC Sounds, you can download it and listen to it next time you're in your car. Anyway, 12 new social homes at Sandpiper Road. I have said it before on the council. I'm really pleased to say that Cornwall Council still does deliver old-fashioned council houses. Good. It's not as many as I'd like, and I'm doing my best to bring more. But I do know that we're having to channel our investment at the moment into maintenance of our stock, which have been underinvested in for years and years and years, and we're struggling to meet decency standards on that stock. So it does mean that we'll have to think very carefully about how we're spending money and resources at this point in time. Now, let's have a look. I've crossed out the things that Faith said. Broadclose Estate. I've had residents of Broadclose Estate. That's the opposite side of the little roundabout to the Shawlands Estate. And there is a big, it's not a grassy bit, but it's a landscape bit which is full of pampas grasses. The maintenance is not great on it. I'm talking to residents about that. So that's a piece of work which I've just recently picked up.
Can I ask you, just are they subject to, is it the same as it is on they've got a maintenance company that does that, or was that?
They have got a maintenance company which does it. And that particular bit is under the management of Cornwall Council, who are not doing what the residents would wish them to do. Electric vehicle charging. I've had several complaints in the last few weeks that there are not enough fast chargers in Bude, so I'm picking that up. The canal lock gates were recently not closed, that's the wrong word, out of action for a few days because we had a long dry spell. And I just want to remind ourselves that when we get a long dry spell of 2 or 3 weeks of dry weather, the Environment Agency limits the amount of water that can be put into the canal because it has to stay in the river to keep the river in water. So to speak, and there are occasions when we do get dry spells where the lock gates cannot be used because of the Environment Agency instructions. And I hope, on one hand, that we have a lovely hot, dry summer, so we make the most of our tourist dollar. But on the other hand, I want to see the canal and the harbour being used as much as possible because that is part of our social fabric of Bude and it's very important to me. We have the leader visit tomorrow, so the leader of Cornwall Council is coming to visit all of the community area network, but he's starting off down in Camelford and working his way up. And I had planned a very short itinerary for him, but the Mayor has kindly stepped in and provided a much more full itinerary.
Well, make most use of his time. He didn't get very often. So,
and with regards to the 20-mile-an-hour zone, I think it's complete. You said there was some more to do.
It's not in Stratton.
All right, okay. So the Bude bit is done, which I am very pleased with. But I've already had several complaints of people coming to me saying that it's not extensive enough. For example, the over 55s residential homes out opposite Ebbingford Manor, it stops just shy of that. And also the Bullied Way, again, another over 55s place. The junction in and out of that effectively is a four-way junction because it's at the bottom of, not Broadclose Hill, Valley Road. And I have said to all these people, although it's annoying me as well, that I did advocate really hard for those to be within the 20-mile-an-hour zone, but I was told by the traffic officer and our traffic manager that it was inappropriate to extend the 20-mile-an-hour zone in those areas. So we'll have to wait and see how it operates. We'll have to wait and see how people respond to it. But if we continue to want that 20-mile-an-hour zone extended, I can make representations, but it won't be until some point in the long distant future. So, thank you. Thank you. I kept it as short as I could.
Thank you.
Tom.
Yeah, possibly not enough time to discuss it now, but I was going to ask Councillor LeBroy about the social housing bill that's working its way through Parliament at the moment, because of course a few years ago we passed we declared a housing emergency, and as part of that we committed to lobbying government to abandoning the right to buy scheme. It's not been abandoned under the new bill. It's the length of time you have to be in residence has been extended from 3 to 10 years. You probably know.
I do know this, yes.
Yeah. So, but you mentioned social housing. Of course, social housing is protected, but not forever. 35 years, I believe.
It's a nuance. So if the council builds a new home for social rent, it cannot be sold under right to buy for 35 years.
Yeah. Do you think this kind of matches our ambitions?
Sorry, with your indulgence, yes, it does get much closer because what it allows councils to do is to invest in new homes and to be able to recoup the value of that home through the rental income over the 35-year period over which the rental would be amortised. So the danger at the moment is if, for instance, the council spends £200,000 on building a home, and somebody exercises their right to buy, they've lost that money.
This is the whole point, wasn't it, about the whole scheme? Yeah, but that's probably something we can discuss at length.
Yeah, we will be able to bring that up again, I'm sure.
We were supposed to have a meeting with this leader of Cornwall Council about planning, weren't we, a couple of weeks back?
No, that was the MP.
The MP, so I got it wrong way. So can we see this, where's this bloke going to be tomorrow than the leader of Cornwall Council?
You've got a formal invitation to be here at 2:30?
Yeah, I've got some words with. And you're giving the keys over to one of those new places up back at Lidl's there?
Sandpiper Way.
How many more local people are in there? And the other places have got local people in them.
Was it how many of the 12?
Yeah.
I'll tell you afterwards.
No, can you tell me now?
I'm reluctant to.
Why?
Who's the answer?
Well, I know the answer.
He's doing it.
No, he's not.
It is the answer.
I know the answer.
Yes.
Well, no, I don't think it will. But no, I'll tell you the answer. I'll tell you. 11 of the 12 houses went to people from Bude.
11.
Yeah. The 12th one went to somebody who has an armed forces connection.
Yeah, that's probably. I'm happy with that. That's brilliant. 11 local people have got houses. Because as I say, I mean, where I am, somebody just moved in from Salt Ash. Brilliant, isn't it? And I honestly don't think they're there half the time. I think it's like a bloody holiday home for them. Good, 11. That's brilliant.
This will involve Chris Tilt, really. The wall along Breakwell Road, which the Harbour Authority says it's nothing to do with them, and the Highways Authority say it's nothing to do with them. But could Peter look into whose wall it is? Because it needs looking after. Lots of different ways. Just a nice one.
I think if you look at the 1904 maps which are available, that you will see that will be one or the other.
But they're both saying it's not theirs at the moment.
Yeah, that's what I feel.
Yeah.
I've looked into it before, and you're quite right. Nobody wants to answer the question because it becomes a liability. But my reckoning it was the original Bute and Harbour Society. It was the boundary wall of the
Yeah,
harbour.
that's right, yeah.
So I believe it belongs to the harbour.
Well, I think, but perhaps the town council could pick it up. No, it's just.
Did you manage to find out why one of the houses, probably the one that didn't go to a local, has got cages on all the windows?
Yes.
I had.
Because a lot of my neighbours are very concerned.
Right, it's a regulation because that room could be used as a downstairs bedroom. So if the person was in that room and they wanted to have the window open, they don't have to worry about somebody leaping in through the window. But it's a regulation on a social home.
Right.
It's part of a standard
Are they all
specification.
social homes then? And all of them have downstairs rooms that could be used for bedrooms?
In that particular home, no. That is well, unless you've been given a different answer.
No,
but
I was told it was building regulations and any downstairs.
Yeah, because you go along that road and it's noticeable that the first couple don't, then you get to two that do, and then you get to two more that don't. I'm not trying to cause you problems, but
no.
I live there, I genuinely.
But those bars can be just slid out of the way, so I expect the residents will just slide about the way and you'll never see them again.
All right.
That's good. If there's a fire, they'll be able to get out.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Right, yeah, all right, thank you.
Any other questions for our Cornwall councillors? Right, excellent. Okay. Note any reports or committee chairs and representatives on outside bodies.
Can I just report back as the kind of lead, and I'm confused now, for criminal justice? I've been completely frustrated by the sector inspector who I've reached out to on 3 occasions now with really no response of any quality. I'm not going to give up. But at the same time, I was looking at the PCC's website and noticed that she runs a councillor advocate scheme. And so with the council's permission, I would like to sign up to that scheme because that is a way into the criminal justice system. And I see that the sector inspector should appear at a quarterly meeting, so it's another way of nobbling him. But has anyone got any objections to me doing that?
No, well done. Yeah, I propose.
I just want to say, Joe, the sector inspector turns up regularly to the community area network meetings.
To the last one, when I came specifically to see him, he said that he was going to be there.
How annoying. He was at the last one, which was on Monday.
Yeah, they just had one Monday.
Yeah. It would have been
nice to have known if it was on.
Yeah.
Go any further, but having reached out to him 3 times, and if I put myself in his position, and he's got a councillor wanting to reach out and to engage, I would have expected him to have been keen to reciprocate.
Can I ask you to contact him, but ask Sarah Ball, who's our community link officer, to make that introduction for you?
I will. I'm just surprised that...
And I'm sorry that you've had problems. He should have responded, I'm sure.
I nearly wrote to the Chief Constable to enhance his career, because if that's his approach, but I held back from that. But I will reach out to Sarah Ball.
Thank you.
Right?
I feel a bit guilty now.
What have you done?
I've got 2 pages worth.
Good.
Don't worry, it's big writing.
This is from the cat.
It's the lead councillor bits, if that's all right. So the Health and Wellbeing Working Group attended on the 11th of May, considering the systems concerning regarding AI governance, including data ownership, security and professional judgment, reviewed the frailty and falls prevention and noted low engagement with centralised services and the need for localised provision, highlighted transport barriers affecting access to healthcare, including long travel times and high costs, received updates on orthodontic service disruption affecting approximately 2,000 patients which were shut down in Bodmin, which was overnight. We discussed youth provision challenges, including venue limitations and sustainability,
identified more gaps in the SEND and neurodiversity support, particularly for adults and transitions. We agreed to gather further intelligence on palliative care gaps and supported community-led health initiatives and promotion of the Cornwall Link platform. So the CAP meeting and the AGM was this week. The chair and vice chair was reappointed, which was Councillor Nikki Chopak and Councillor Alan Whittle. I delivered an update on the youth working group, including trauma-informed practice, early help pathways and progress on the Bude Youth Initiative. Received an emergency planning presentation from someone other. It was really interesting, but I think, was it the council, Peter? Sorry. The emergency planning.
Yeah, so it's the emergency planning officers, but we do have our own emergency plan here. Which
Yes, which I did mention.
Yeah.
So it was noted that several parish councils do not yet have emergency plans, and they were encouraged to develop them. They all seemed quite positive about it, and the police did give an update on increased parcel thefts. They've asked us to please pass on to everyone possible that I'm told they're called porch pirates by my son. The residents are advised to use staffed addresses or use the parcel lockers where possible, and to be aware that there is people actually following the delivery vans and looking, which I didn't realise and was very horrified at. So please be aware, and if we can pass that on to our anyone that will listen, to be honest. I had a meeting with Vicky Parker, who's from the Ruby Country Medical Centre, and so received an update on the PCN transformation and the proposed Cornwall-Devon structural split. We discussed implications for the INT rollout, cross-border working and community engagement, and also identified opportunities for improved data use and strengthen local partnerships, because I was doing my usual bit of whinging about communication. I have been asked to go on the steering group for the Cornwall Parent Carer Forum, as I was invited to join them to ensure representation of Bude within the country-wide SEND discussions. They are also going to be supporting the Bude Autism, ADHD and SEN group, and so that will be enhanced signposting and information pathways. I had a meeting with Emma West, who's the commissioning manager for SEND for Cornwall Council, and she is gathering information on post-16 further education and issues and system pressures. We discussed the highlighted gaps in transition planning, transport and medical needs access, and we agreed to continue collaborative work on the joined up pathways across education, health and social care. I have now been invited to a meeting in Truro because they would like to hear the Bude story, which is in a couple of weeks' time, and that's particularly related to rural access and SEND pathways. I've been invited to go on the Oliver McGowan mandatory training, which is a unique training solutions. It's basically designed to improve care for people with learning disabilities and or autism within the healthcare and other, which is quite exciting. And just want to mention, and then I promise I'll shut up, that the Stratton Hospital Fete is on the 20th of June. It would be really nice to see people there if possible, please.
Thank you very much for that. Really good work, actually, putting Bude on the map in relation to the provision for care for those with additional needs. It's really, really good work. And difficult area of work, I have to say. So thanks very much for your support with that. Peter, do you have something to say?
I was actually just going to say, I think you deserve a round of applause for the output of work you've done, so well done.
Any other lead councillors or committee chairs? Tom?
Briefly, we had a visit from 3 Cornwall Council planning officers yesterday, which was very, I think, informative and well received, and it was very useful to us. The other thing is that we have somewhat reluctantly decided to revert to discussing all planning applications rather than selected ones.
Okay. Was there any particular feedback from the officers at all?
Quite a bit, actually. an issue that has been coming up the spectrum quite a lot is viability. And it just, we talked a lot about affordable housing, and what we mean by affordable housing, is it what local first-time buyers can afford, or is it what meets the government's guidelines on affordability? But actually surpassing that now is what is it viable to build that locals can, first-time buyers can afford, and that viability, the cost of building those houses is just going up and up and up. And so you can have, some of us don't have more simply for developers, but there is come a point fast approaching where they won't be able to build housing that local first-time buyers can afford.
Yeah, it's certainly the message when Ben McGuire's meeting that was coming out on that, and certainly something I heard fairly loud and clear, was that the ability to build affordable homes in this part of the country is becoming increasingly difficult because of the too many costs getting in here, employment, and it's just becoming more and more difficult, just more down to geography than anything else. And that's a sad reality. Peter, have you got any thoughts about that?
Well, to me, it's my bread and butter. Yeah. It's what I spend probably 7 out of every 10 hours I work every day thinking about. We never used to feel sorry for developers. We always used to consider them thieving whatevers. But actually, they can't. By the time they bought the land, the bricks, the mortar, the labour to put it together, all the professional services accompanied with it, it's cost them more than the house is worth. And it's more so in Cornwall than most other parts of the country. So we're very likely to be in a position where we don't get houses built in Cornwall, which is a bit of a problem for me, because if you build an estate of, say, 50 houses, the recent tradition that we've got is that the government, our planning system, would say at least 30% of those have to be affordable homes. And the way the developer would do that is he would make sufficient profit on the 70% to subsidise the loss he would make on the 30% affordable. Now, they just can't do that now. So that is a problem. Yeah. Going forward, it's a bit of a weird inverse argument. Because we're not going to get open market houses built, it's very likely that the only houses we get built in Cornwall will be affordable houses under 100% rural exception type sites with support of Homes England money.
Yeah, and I suppose, the housing policy over the last 40 years has obviously failed first-time buyers, but now it appears it's failing developers as well. So it's been, it's a failure, complete.
It's not a great position to be in.
No.
Thanks, Tom. Kevin?
The point I was going to make, and it's nothing that we can decide around this table, if the Tamer did actually go all the way from coast to coast and we were an island, then our planning system would be completely different, as is the planning system in all the islands around the British Isles. And this would not arise. These sorts of issues would not arise. There would be complete focus on the local population. And if you were a multi-millionaire and wanted to build a house here, you could probably do it. But it wouldn't be the sort of commercial developments that bring in large numbers of people who basically have moderate to middle incomes, and they just suck up the housing market because they can, because they have wealth from elsewhere that didn't accrue here at low wages and low mean incomes. So that's an observation that's been made frequently in many public houses, etc. But I make it again around this table. We don't fit in with the national planning, and we shouldn't have to.
I just want to know, really, if we keep building like we're building, is the sewage system going to cope with it? Because I don't think it's coping now. No. So, how can we keep building if the sewage system's not going to work? I'm not against building houses, but
Do you want to respond to that, please?
Oh, no, I can respond. I went, I think it was about a month and a half ago, I visited the sewage station up at Hill Bridge, and I asked the operators there that exact question. And they said they confidently had capacity for another 3,000 or 4,000 houses and be.
Is their capacity in
I'm sorry. I don't wish to support their argument. I'm just saying what they told me.
This weekend in advance because everybody knew the bay was going to be full of their own species.
So I'm not supporting.
So I would dispute that.
I'm not supporting the argument. I'm just telling you what I was told. That they claim that they have sufficient capacity for another couple of thousand houses. They also claim that they could go way beyond that as well, because they've got sufficient space to put further treatment plants in there. And they say that they meet and exceed government legislation regulation on the cleanliness of the output they put out into the sea on our longshore outfall.
They were told to say that. Under duress.
So I want to on someone else, Tom said, why have you diverted to dealing with all money? Because we have quite a
I know.
discussion, but we're not doing that.
Absolutely. My personal view is I would prefer that the planning committee wasn't just a planning applications committee and was discussing other things such as the sewerage issue. But even though some, and this not, please don't take this as derogatory towards anybody, but even though some members were saying, yeah, they agree, we don't have to discuss everyone. When it came to it, when we had the two lists, people still wanted to discuss them.
All right.
So my preference would have been to stick with the other system, but on the other hand, it appeared that members did want to discuss. So that was the.
Okay, all right, I don't want to start the
The other side of that is, and I do agree with Tom.
I apologise, everybody.
In a perfect world, it would be great to do the process that Tom's suggesting. However, we did have some rules that said if there was public interest, public comments, they would be discussed. I believe one got through. Technically, it was missed or whatever. So that was one that should have been raised. Also, when you started to talk to people, particularly at the fire station, which I wasn't aware of, they were very passionate about what was going on. And a couple of weeks later, we had the harbour master in here saying similar things. There was obviously some discussion that was needed. It might have been the same outcome, but these people wanted to be heard. So I do think, although it's hard and it takes a long time, there is an argument to say we should go through them all and we should deal with them properly and give them due consideration. That's not to say that we're going to talk about the ins and outs of a wall colouring or painting, but there is an argument to say we should do that, and it's the safest way, because I think our planning officer, who I think has done a really good job, often felt that there was confusion. I think there was confusion around the table. So the safest thing to do is to look at them all, try and speed up the process, get better at it, get more educated, and hopefully we'll do a good job.
Yeah.
Oh, there were a range of views.
Yeah, well, that was why I asked for it to be on the agenda, so we could hear these views there. But I was just going to go back to the sewage issue, because one of Chris asked about the, sewage. One of the things I was hoping we could discuss and maybe have a policy on was, and we discussed it with the planning officers yesterday, every significant planning application that comes along, it appears it gets stamped with standard text from Southwest Water. If Southwest Water say it's okay to connect to the system, then there is no point in disputing it, because even if they do refuse it, it'll go up to M5 to Bristol, and the inspector up there will say Southwest Water said it's okay, so it's okay. So what I was asking them yesterday was, is there kind of an in-between where we could ask them for more information to demonstrate that they can actually cope with this rather than it being accepted once they've stamped it, and they weren't, I'd have to say they weren't favourable. They didn't think it would make it. So it was very useful that those two issues were discussed the same day.
Yeah, my thought personally is that I think as a council, there's no reason at all I shouldn't take a position. I think that it should be a conversation that's being had within planning, and if there's something that planning would like the full council to consider in relation to making some sort of statement or some lobbying sort of situation, we can do that. We know we're limited, especially in relation to planning.
Yeah.
We for years and years, as a planning committee, we had the Bude-Stratton 5. And now every planning application, we had the Bude-Stratton 5 on it. Now it was a recommendation, and it was listened to by developers, and it was as time went on, it got more serious. And the idea was we were, trying to be consistent with what it is that we were asking for developers and planners. And by doing that over a period of time, that would then eventually become, you'd get traction and momentum. And I think that's the important thing for us. It's about being consistent with our voice and being consistent with the lobbying that we're doing in relation to this stuff. So I think it's important that as a council we have a position, and of course that can come from planning, and that's something that could be carefully considered. I don't think anybody around the room is going to have a problem with suggesting in some way that South West Water is not doing a great job. We've already said that with the marketing which is for it. We understand the complexity of planning and what that means. I think it would be right for us to have a view on that, but we need to work out how we're going to do it.
Can I just mention one other thing that I personally would like to, that's a personal view, envisage the planning committee being involved in. It's something close to your heart, which is Vistry Homes, and the shambles there that maybe we should be taking care of on behalf of the residents.
We'll come to it. We've got an item on the agenda.
Yeah, okay, I'll leave it at that.
Terms of reference for various committees. Jeremy?
I would just make the point, and I thought Amy Williams yesterday was absolutely first class, very clear and everything like that. One of the discussion points was about what I would call boilerplate objections, that on every planning application we say, got to be aware of dark sky or sewage or whatever. And actually, by saying it on every application, and I support her view in this, you actually water down your voice, because it's just them saying that you can. And far better, in my view, and I think hers, that you actually hold it back until there's something that is really important, really meant, because then the voice gets louder, not gets diminished by just being boilerplate. But that's my view. Other people will have justifiable.
I'll allow Peter to respond, and then we need to move on.
So it's nothing to do with that. It was as to what something that occurred to me when Tom was talking. I was lucky enough to have the tour of the sewage plant and listen to the scientists that operate that. Great jobs. And I don't want to say I was convinced, but I listened to them, and I can tell you what they told me. But would Tom and the planning committee or any other interested council like me to try and organise the same trip so that you can go and listen to what South West Water says, because they believe they have loads of capacity, no problem at all. Like we disagree, but they're scientists and we're not. But it would be interesting, maybe, I think, for you to have the opportunity for the same information that I have.
I'd encourage as many people as possible to take that up.
I'll try and organise it.
As councillors is really critical.
I just want to come back to
I do want to
very briefly, I've been saying this, but not as articulately as Amy Williams and others, but that was what I was been trying to say for a long. So I agree entirely.
How you want to organise your committee and how you want to do that, absolutely fine. And that's for you guys, really. Okay. Any other committees? No. Okay, moving on. Okay, minutes. Crikey, item 9. Full council to approve the minutes of previous meeting on the 7th of May 2026. Opposed? Any seconders? Okay, everyone for? Anyone against? Any abstentions?
Hold on, we're already 2-0.
Okay, we're at full council approving the minutes of the previous
8A to you.
Number 8. 8A?
A.
Ah, right, I've got the wrong one. Yes, on with that.
Okay, fine, yeah. Okay, B, committees. We're going to do these individually?
Yeah.
Committees to receive and note the minutes of the committee meetings below. Planning committee on the 20th of May 2026. Opposed? Second. Everyone for? Anyone against? Any abstentions? Okay. Corporate and Democratic Committee, 21st of May 2026. Opposed? Anyone? Oh, right. Second, anyone? Okay. For? Against? Thank you.
I'll abstain.
Abstain, yeah. Facilities and Environmental Committee, 4th of June.
Cultural and Heritage.
Sorry, Cultural and Heritage Committee, 28th of May. Opposed or second? Anyone for? Against? Abstentions? Yeah, 1. 3 was it? Okay, sorry. Facilities and Environmental Committee on the 4th of June 2026. Opposed? Seconds. Anyone for? Against? Abstentions? Okay, approve finance report. Schedule of payments made. To be made on the 12th of June 2026. Attached. So on the schedule of payments, darling.
The payments, right, slow it down.
No, can't go any slower.
I'm going to propose that we do that.
So schedule of payments to be made on the 12th of June 2026. Paul, you second?
No, one question. I just, British Gas, we get electricity from British Gas. Obviously, Treat. Yeah, I didn't realise.
It's a modern world.
It is a modern world.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, no, yeah. Therefore, I'll second the motion.
So you seconding that?
Yeah.
Okay, everyone for? Anyone against? Anyone abstaining? One abstention. Thank you.
Do we get water from the banks?
Schedule of payments made between the 22nd of May and the 11th of June 2026, also attached. Proposed. Second. Everyone for? Anyone against? Any abstentions? 1, 2. Okay, year-end accounts approval. To consider and note year-end internal audit report 2025-2026.
Yes. I thought it was a very good report and commend the officers for the work that goes into it. I would make one comment, because I noted the amount of interest that we pay, and I asked the question. I was a wee bit surprised to learn, and it was learning, and I think it's beneficial for us all to internalise, that we have £660,000, I think, outstanding loans. So as we begin to think of other things potentially, we should remind ourselves that we are already in hock for £660,000. I don't make a comment about that and the value and otherwise of it. It's just a useful reminder to me that we're already under that level of debt. But I commend the officers for getting that audit.
Can I ask a question just related to that? I don't want to be too difficult about it. Do we have the option to pay that off early if we have the money? Or are we sort of fixed?
I don't know, we could check that, but.
Yeah, if there's a penalties or, it's just a thought, because again, as a council, it's worth considering if we, if we've got money reserves or anything that we feel that we've got that we didn't have, but we were paying, it's always worth paying the debt off before you start doing anything else.
I think these are public works loans, and the answer is not really, there's not a lot to be gained from paying them off early. There might be difference in specific.
Yeah, I guess that, I mean, historically, the interest rate on public works loans has been extremely low, but it has gone up a bit, so.
But my thought would be that if we had money, we'd be better off paying the loan off rather than, that's the point. We'd be better off not being a debtor, I would suggest. Anyway, it's just a thought. Peter.
I just want to dare I suggest it's I was going to call it an old-fashioned view, but maybe that's unfair. So I won't actually say that. That wasn't in my mind. But sometimes we take public works loan boards loans out for very good social purposes, and we accept that the cost of the council and the cost of the ratepayer which is probably the real test, is actually worth it. So, for instance, we used to have our outdoor team in a unit that we were paying rent on to quite a high degree, and we took out a 10-year public works loan boards, and we now own all that land, and we have a great asset. So that was a really good one that has paid us back.
Peter, I don't think I said anything different to that, and I am ancient, and I fully accept I'm ancient, and so be it. Sometimes wisdom comes with age as well, and so all I was saying was pointing out the amount of indebtedness that we already have before we consider doing anything else. I didn't make any comment about it. In fact, I think I said there's value. But all I'm doing, and I think I'm right to do this, is to remind us from my ancient age that we've got 660,000 quid's worth of indebtedness.
And I respectfully come back to you and say it was actually our mayor who said we'd rather pay the loan off, and that was actually when I said
that's my personal decision.
My comments were really aimed at Tony rather than yourself.
And I accept this, absolutely. I know I'm old as well, but that's absolutely fine. Anyway, that's my view. But so consider and note the end of year internal report. Your comments are noted, Jeremy. So I'd like us to Paul.
Yeah, I mean, in the report here, the recommendations they say we should do. Are we going to follow those?
Yes, yeah, there's a plan in place, sorry, to do that, yeah.
Okay, fine, that's all. Good. There were 3 or 4 recommendations they say, which I've highlighted.
So I've got a proposal that we note them. I'm happy to second that. Yeah. Okay, all in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? As you know. Thank you. Okay, receive and note the 2025-26 year-end budget reports. Hopefully none of this will come as a significant size. Yeah, I was going to say, so the committees have already seen these anyway, so hopefully none of it will come as a particular surprise. Peter, did you ever looking at?
Well, I did notice that there was a contribution to the general reserves, which ups it by, I think it was £120,000, and I just wondered what that ratio of the new balance would be against our annual operating in terms of months, and where it fits with the auditor's recommendation of general reserves.
I'm not sure we've got that information to hand right on.
I have that's the auditor does recommend that we have at least 6 months. And at the moment we've got 3.5.
We're trying to build the reserves.
Okay, so the reserves have £125,000 added to them. Does that change the 3.5 month position?
It will do.
It increases it because it was 3.5 months before that was is that right? Yeah. We can get the figure to you though, specifically. If
I'm not particularly interested. The broad brush figure is enough, but the suggestion to me still remains that our general reserve is under where it really actually is. Okay.
And I think that's recognised, which is why that movement of money is taking place when it's available in order to get us to that 6-month operating level. Are you happy with that?
Yeah, no,
that's fine. Yeah, okay.
Is this the one we're discussing?
No, I didn't say that because they've already gone to the committees.
Oh, all right. Okay.
Katie.
I propose that we note them.
Got anyone seconding that? Mike? Okay, so everybody, that we note those, please.
Three paintings.
Everyone for? Anyone against? Anyone abstaining? Okay. Thank you. Receive and note the reserve movements at the end of year. For year end is 31st of March 2025.
Yeah, but this should be valued.
Any questions? It's reserves year end here.
Sue. 11 Sue.
Steve.
Yeah, no, I just realised I probably should have asked my last question.
Yeah, anyway. Anyone, okay, anyone want to propose that? Proposed, second? Yeah. Anyone for? Anyone against? Any abstentions?
I'd like to abstain.
You can abstain?
Yeah.
To approve the chair signing of the year-end bank reconciliation.
No.
Right? Oh, no, asset register, sorry.
Asset register. Right. No, yeah. These 3 paintings, at the bottom of that list, it says 3 paintings.
Yeah.
And the paintings are insured, but there's no mention of a value of those 3 paintings. I'd just like to know how much they are worth. Any idea, Tracy? How much are the paintings worth? They're insured, so they obviously have a value. Is it 2 million or 3 million? Well, I'd just like to know, that's all.
20 quid?
No, when it's insured, 20 quid. It's Lewinsky. People were just saying, those Lewinsky ones, they're pretty desirable, aren't they, in certain quarters?
The big one, and there's two brands of them, I think, isn't there?
Anyway, I'll leave it with you. Chair. There is no answer at the moment.
Well, I'm sure we should have a value on them if they've been insured. There must be a value. Yes.
Well, it's not down here.
We shall get a value to you. So you know.
I would like to know, yes.
I'd be interested.
Yeah, no, I'm sure we all council.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions relating to the asset register?
Yeah. The cherry picker, is that still being rented out? It is.
It's working okay now. Yeah, as far as I know.
Well, I don't know, but somebody asked me about it, and I said, well.
I think the facilities manager did report, didn't he, at the last F&E meeting that it had been repaired.
Yeah, it's up and running.
Okay. Any other questions relating to the asset register? Going. Okay, so I've had that proposed. Any other questions? No. Seconded, anyone? Please, Mike. Okay, everyone for? Anyone against? Any abstentions?
Do we need to vote to extend? Do we need to vote to extend?
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so I'm not going to put a time on it, so I'm just going to vote to extend the meeting beyond 8 o'clock, please. Anyone?
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Yeah, we'll agree on that. Good, thank you. Thanks, Kevin, for reminding us that. Okay, so now to approve the chair signing of the year-end bank reconciliation.
As part of our annual meeting.
That's all.
So I'd like to propose that.
I will propose.
Anyone want to second it? Okay, everyone for? Anyone against? Any abstentions? Okay. To approve the annual governance statement 2025-26 for the annual return of the year ended 31st March 2026. So we have to go through this individually.
Sorry, Tom, can I just say, there's an awful lot of figures in all this paperwork, but I have to say, having spent time with Emma, the officer, today and yesterday, I can assure everybody that everything that was on this paper has come together really well, and she's done a fantastic job, because she's working on a very old system, and there's a lot of time and effort gone into it, and it does all add up. So I just want to say thank you to Emma. She really has been great doing it.
Thank you for that. Appreciate it. Thank you. So, we need to go through the annual governance statement line by line, because you've got to get a yes or a no answer on each of the questions.
So, okay, so with you, I think I'm familiar with this process. So, we've just listened to me for a minute, reading out all of these items, and then I actually need you to say out loud, please, yes or no. Please do not say no. There is no need. This would not come before you until the internal audit and auditor has produced this report, and he is content that we do meet the review criteria, but nevertheless, as part of our process, we need to do this in this way. So I'm going to read them all out, and then when I finish each one, please say yes. So we acknowledge, as the members of the Bude-Stratton Council, our responsibility for ensuring that there is a sound system of internal control, including arrangements for the preparation of the accounting statements. We confirm to the best of our knowledge and belief with respect to the accounting systems for the year ended 31st March 2026 that, 1, we have put in place arrangements for effective financial management during the year and for the preparation of the accounting statements.
Yes.
We maintained an adequate system of internal control, including measures designed to prevent and detect fraud and corruption, and reviewed its effectiveness.
Yes.
We have assured ourselves that there are no matters of actual or potential non-compliance with laws, regulations and proper practices that could have a significant financial effect on the ability of this authority to conduct its business or manage its finances.
Yes.
We provided proper opportunity during the year for the exercise of electors' rights in accordance with the requirements of the accounts and audit regulations.
Yes.
We carried out an assessment of the risks facing this authority and took appropriate steps to manage those risks, including the introduction of internal controls and/or external insurance cover where required.
Yes.
We maintained throughout the year an adequate and effective system of internal audit of the accounting records and control systems. We took appropriate action on all matters raised in reports with internal and external audits.
Yes.
We considered whether any litigation, liabilities or commitments, events or transactions occurring either during or after the year end have a financial impact on the authority and, where appropriate, have included them in the accounting statements.
Yes.
And then skip 9 and then 10, we have put in place arrangements for the effective IT and data management in accordance with proper practices during the year under review.
Yes.
Thank you very much. We've both signed.
Right. I'm just going to step out to the toilet, so Kate can just do the next bit, because I need to go. I've been here for...
You gotta go.
So, after 2 seconds.
Take your time, but just relax. That'll do for you.
H, to approve the dates for the exercise of public rights, 19th of June 2026 to the 30th of July 2026.
What does that mean? Can you explain what it's all about?
So that's when our accounts are available for the public. So
I see.
to review and to come and ask questions and what have you, which sometimes happens. And we will be publishing a notice to that effect on the website and on notice board, so people know when they can come and discuss.
Right.
But please can you approve that date, those dates?
Fine. Yes.
I'll propose.
Second. Happy. Yeah. Everything.
All in favour? Against, abstain. Okay, next one. To receive and agree. 1, BSTC preferred options being future coast viewed.
Here we go. Here are the options. Here are the options.
Well, yes, I mean, thank you to those that were able to come to the briefing last week, so that gave you the responses of the public about the various options. We do need to agree funding allocations. There is a steering group meeting on Monday, and I'm very much like to be able to represent the views of the Bude-Stratton Town Council to the steering group about what you would like their investment in, or whether you don't want their investment at all. Those options are available to you. So, particularly, I think it's the path first.
Yes, just the first.
So, I gave you the costed options. There's, in effect, there's six options for the path, depending on which surface you like. So I guess the first thing to do is say, do you want future investment in the path? And then if you do, can you prioritise the order? I guess it's probably the right way to do it. And then we go from there.
One question. With the tarmac, can you get green tarmac?
I think you can get any colour tarmac.
I've heard it mentioned before, because tarmac appears to be the cheapest, ecologically,
Yes,
you argue, but colour-wise.
Tarmac is very much the cheapest.
Yes, yeah.
Tried and tested technology.
Indeed.
But the others are.
Okay.
One question, you've costed this.
Yes.
And with several options, fine, I get that. The other things aren't costed within these documents. It's quite difficult to know how much money we have to spend on this or recommend spending on this
Yes.
as a whole, as part of the whole.
Yeah. Obviously, if you, I had a budget of £60,000 for the path. If you want more than £60,000 for the path, the money will have to come from somewhere else.
That's a very useful point.
But if, that's kind of the steering group's problem, actually.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah. If there was a figure you had, that's
Right. Yeah, so I was just gonna, in the recommendations, 3, in view of the need for quick decision making, to achieve the path completion, you want us to delegate procurement and contract management to the clerk and mayor.
I was going to raise that.
I wasn't aware that we were involved in the delivery process of this at all.
Can I add to that? I was going to raise that first.
This is a different game. I thought Future Speed was doing this and Cormac were doing that, and do we have the staff time? There's a whole range of questions that follow from that item.
So I'd like to roll that back slightly. I think where we need to be with this right now is we're having this discussion in the full council meeting, having had a briefing a couple of days ago that not everybody could get to anyway. I think you're quite right. I think there's an awful lot of questions in here that we need to be clear about. So we need a far better way to engage with Future Coast Speed than doing it under how we're doing it at the moment. It's not working. Right? And at the moment, Future Coast Speed have been operating for nearly 18 months. We've only got sort of 6 or 7 months to go. And clearly, they've been working towards a set of delivery options that now need to be in a position to be delivered. Now, at some point, someone's got to do that. Now, this is the bit that's been missed for the last 18 months. We need, as a council, to be engaging with Future Coast Speed better to understand exactly the questions you're asking. And that should be getting fed in, what I would suggest, by a committee. I don't know which committee it needs to be, but that committee needs to be engaging with Future Coast Speed or a working group or somebody to bottom out exactly the questions that you're asking. So by the time it comes here, we know what they are. Because to be, in all honesty, at 8:10 on a Thursday night, having already been here for over 2 hours, with 18 people in a room, now having to deal with this. We're not in a great place to actually do it because this is really complex. And clearly there's things in here which need to be resolved. And being presented with this in a position where you're effectively within a document saying, well, we want the town clerk and mayor to be effectively project managing something, it's just not feasible. But what we should have done is had that conversation before we even got to this point. But we're not facilitating that in a sensible way. I don't really see it as Future Coast Speed's problem, but we've got to work out as a council a better way to engage with it. We can talk about that, I think, as part of the committee system. But we are in a difficult position at this stage now, where we're being asked now to engage with the delivery options that have been presented to us, but we're not really in a position to be able to do it, or we're not comfortable with doing it. And that's the issue for me.
This is the thing. I don't want, I'm not being critical of people. I'm not suggesting there's any blame attached or anything sinister going on. But the entire briefing was around, this is what the public would like, what would you like, and all that lot. At no point was there any conversation about who, I had, Cormac can do this path, or Cormac can do the car park, or what. At no point, were there any suggestion that we would be involved. I don't know whether our staff are going to be involved in doing any of this. It's a completely different ballgame to just giving you our preference for what happens with our land.
Okay, Peter wanted to comment, so I'll let him do it first, and I'll come to you, Kate.
Right, so this reminds me of my first sales training that I had probably back in the early 1990s when I was a fresh-faced young whippersnapper trying to flog stuff. And we were taught something called the alternative choice clause. And this sounds a bit like what Councillor Jennings was saying 2 or 3 meetings ago, where you're offered a few alternatives when actually you don't really want anything at all. And my belief is that the Downs are an incredibly precious asset to Bude, with a lot of people caring very, very deeply about them. And I personally don't really want another path on the Downs. And I'm not sure Bude does either. I know that we've done loads of consultation, but let's remind ourselves that if we're really, really generous, we've got less than 300 people giving an opinion, right? And of those 300 people giving an opinion, probably not several of those would have said they didn't want a new path at all. Out of 15,000-ish residents in the catchment area. And I just think if we put a load of new tarmac on the downs, it ain't going to go down very well. And I don't think it's what people want, if I'm honest. One of the options is to put the new path down and take the old one up. And I think if we did that, people would just walk on where the old one was anyway, because it's near the sea. So the option is probably to leave both of them down. So you've then got another pathway on the downs, which we don't really need. I accept in places is getting very close to the edge, but I go back to what I always said with Future Coast Bude. Great to plan, really grateful that we're having these thoughts, but why don't we just move the path when we need to? And I don't think we quite need to at this point in time.
Yeah. I think we're at the position where if you look at 12 as 12, 1 and 2, I think we can tonight give a steer as to our preferred options. BSC preferred options with Future Coast Bude. And it says relevant process. Now, I don't think we understand the process. I think this is where Mike's comments come in. I too was under the impression that what we were going to do is to feed in our opinions to Future Coast Bude, and Future Coast Bude was the delivery body, and that our sort of involvement in the actual delivery of these projects would be relatively minimal. So I think that the point I would like to make is what is the minimum you could sensibly move forward with from us. So, for example, having looked at the various options and attended the briefing, I've kind of parked some of my personal preferences and come to the conclusion that the thing that would be probably most useful to most residents and most supported would be the toilets at both Crookness and Summerlands. So I'm quite prepared to say, as my personal number one option would be to back those toilets. But what I'm not prepared to do tonight is to sign up to any kind of involvement of officers or potential procurement through this organisation that ties us up. So with that sort of thing, where we could simply rank order the options and then park issues around delivery be of any use, because I suspect that that's all we're going to be in a position to deliver tonight.
Yeah. Just don't answer that yet. I just wanted to.
I'm sure it's my fault and I've missed something. But here we are, Bude-Stratton Town Council. We're making recommendations to who are going to be the final arbiters, because ultimately I'm very much with Peter that, you know, if we put extra tarmac down on the downs, we should expect all kinds of dislike. But there are downs. Who's going to be the final arbiter in deciding what's going to happen or no? Because I thought we were going to be.
Okay.
We are.
Where are we?
Well, let's yeah, I agree. So let's Darky.
Carry on, finish.
No, I finished.
We're going to end up the same mess as we did with Bloody Urig, aren't we? We're going to end up being left in a mess, and we'll end up having to pay money to put it right, to tidy up and do everything. And we'll end up stuck with the maintenance of all these things in years to come.
Okay.
I think before we start thinking about what option we need to choose, we need to really think about what this means for us and what will our involvement be, and whether as a council we can achieve that. I think we've spent a lot of time on this, but maybe not enough time doing it in the right way. And I don't want to mention like a working group words, but I really think that we need a working group to sit down with Future Coast Bude and iron out all of these things. If we go with this option, what does that mean? What does that look like? Or does this mean, if we go for this, does this mean that the clerk and the mayor have to project manage and do all the work? Well, that's probably not what we agreed to. So I think we need more information and more understanding about what it means in the present and the future.
Yeah, I'm just doing a quick look up. It says the council has general duties as a landowner and occupier to act reasonably regarding foreseeable risk to visitors and path users. So do we have a legal duty to make sure the path stays open at all times? I mean, this is a foreseeable risk to visitors and path users if it's going to disappear, isn't it?
Vicky?
Yeah, I don't really want to see the downs being cut into at all, because they are the downs, they are very precious to us. The next thing is, I do sort of feel strongly that this is a very, very small group of people who've actually responded to this. So it's, as Peter says, less than 300 who are making decisions for everybody else. And one of the options that we seem to be being pushed towards is the formalisation of the car park at Crooklets. Having driven out to Widmouth today and seen what they've done to Widmouth, if they intend doing that to Crooklets, it would be absolutely horrible. The reason people love Crooklets as it is because of its informality in that overspill car parking area.
I mean, I'll speak maybe as I'm kind of in turn, but just because I've been here from the beginning. My understanding is that we have a grant funding agreement with the Stratton Town Council, which went before the committee, and that set out which things the Stratton Town Council led on. So that was really clearly the town vision, and that's what, we took responsibility to deliver the town vision. The path, and any work that was done to the path, because I think, as you said, you have a responsibility to ensure that it's safe, and so it was the town council that led on that piece of work, and that's the grant funding agreement. And wayfarer signage, and I think, and possibly also information signs. So those are the things that were always set out and that came to you to agree to say, yes, this is what we take on as a town council that we will lead on as part of the project. The other things are things that as a project team would be leading on. So there are other things that other organisations are leading on. So that's my understanding as to why the expectation is that the town council always have done, right from day one since the grant funding agreement signed, have had responsibility for leading on that bit of work.
Can you just remind us when, just again, just for context and timescale, can you remind us when that was? Roughly.
Probably this time last year.
Okay. About a year ago.
Well, yeah, it was when you were in post.
Yeah.
So about a year ago. Okay.
Yeah, I would just say leading on something doesn't mean that your staff are going to do it if they haven't got capacity. So leading on the coastal vision, there has been additional staff and consultants brought in to support that work. Same will go for the path. We're not expecting your operational team to actually do that work. The expectation is that there will be a contractor that would do it. But it is your land, and so we kind of need you to take the lead, because it'd be daft if somebody else did. But as I said, taking the lead doesn't mean you will have the money to employ a contractor. If you need money to expand the capacity of the team to manage that contractor, that offer has also been made as well. So that's kind of where that's come from. The reason for this being a recommendation is this: that we are very tight on time, and if we have to, obviously, we'll have to go through a procurement process. There'll have to be a selection process for that. If we have to then wait a month for the next committee meeting to agree that contractor, it starts to get very difficult in terms of delivery, because we have a tight timetable that does need to be delivered. And all bills paid, and you're very happy with the path by the end of March. So, in a real world, that needs to be way before that, so that you're happy with, you can do all the snagging and everything. So that was I'm very happy to take advice. If you want to carry on going through your normal committee processes, that's fine, but we will need to keep a very tight eye on the programming. I mean, to be fair, your meetings are pretty regular and you may well be able to work with them. So that's the reason for the recommendation, is just that timetable that I'm concerned about. Yeah, and I appreciate, it was a year ago that you signed up to this, so you may well have forgotten, so I should probably have reminded you that you provided that in background to the report, which I apologise that I didn't.
Can I just make another point, which is, I understand what, has been raised about the number of people that are being consulted with. I think it's worth just reflecting on, day-to-day Cornwall Council business, toilets and car parks, and would they usually consult with the community, or would it just happen because it's something in the interest of the council, maybe if they would just do it. So we're trying to do this as an inclusive way as possible. You're never going to get lots of people, responding to these sorts of things, but it's a lot better than if we just gone ahead and done it without asking anyone. So I think we can only go with the information.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for letting me have a little say. But I've been to a lot of the Future Code of things. I'm a member of the Critical Friends, which I am chairman as well. And I'm wondering, they've done the survey, they've come along with these things they're going to do. They haven't given you a choice, really. They've said, we're going to do it, and if you don't do it and lead on it, then we'll get somebody else to. Now that seems completely
That's fine. Just to be clear, I'm not sure that is what's been
No, absolutely not. It's this council, it's your land, it's your decision about whether investment happens on the path. There was a governance question a minute ago that I didn't answer. So the money has been given to Cornwall Council as an accountable body. So as an accountable body, there is a steering group which is meeting on Monday, and they will decide on the allocation of funding. If you don't want any money for the path, that is your decision. They can't force you to have a relocated aligned path. Up to you. The other assets are Cornwall Council assets, so they can decide. Again, if the car parks don't want the overflow to happen, we can't force the car parks. If the environment service don't want the toilets to happen and you don't want to run them, we can't force that. So that's why we're doing all this consultation, not only with the community, but also with the people that operate and own those assets before we get to the steering group. So that the steering group knows where the red lines are, because there's no point in the steering group making a decision if actually the owner of that asset doesn't want it, because that's not.
I think with the part, it's really helpful what Helen's done to the path, because PT made the point, well, we're doing this too soon, we can just leave it, do it when it happens. But Pat's made the point that you are responsible, so it's useful as a town council for you to understand what the cost would be. If you don't do it now, if you have to pay for it in 3 years' time, that's how much it's going to cost the town council, versus if you do it this year, it won't cost the town council anything, but you'll have done it sooner than you had anticipated. So I guess that they're helpful costs for you to kind of make the informed decision.
My question is could that money be ring-fenced down in county, sitting there waiting for us to use it when the cliff falls in?
Use it or lose it.
Use it or lose it.
Yeah. It's not Cornwall Council money, it's DEFRA, and it's been provided by the government. You use it or it goes somewhere else.
Let it go on.
Right.
Yeah, I came here quite prepared to discuss and give preferences. I'm quite happy to do that. I agree that the turnout wasn't massive, 300, but it was good enough to give an indication of the people that cared enough to actually take part. So I'm quite happy to move on to that. I understand what you're saying about the need for quick decision making and everything like that. If that's the case, and hypothetically, if we did go forward, we would need to check that against our procurement policy. So I'm not entirely sure we can just hands that to one person.
Well,
So if that was there, if we do take the lead on this, we then have to follow our own rules.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
And I'm not entirely sure we're in a position right now to just hand that to the mayor. I don't think that fits our criteria of quality.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, I didn't want to be categoric, but so that aside, we'll need to look at that. And moving on to preferences and things like that, I just have one, obviously, I particularly, but we in general, put a massive amount of effort into the skate park down there. And I'm just in the back of my mind, I've got this, we're currently trying to get permission from Cornwall Council to have a site compound down there. It's not going to be in summer when the car park's making them lots of money. So we will be at the back end of that at best September going into winter. If you get in there and do the car park and place the toilets next to the skate park, all of a sudden our access to the skate park to actually do the work we need to do becomes a lot more problematic. So there's an element of trying to line this up. We kind of need to be on there first.
Which is precisely my point about having a committee making sure there's providing the necessary oversight. Because otherwise, this is what we're missing.
But neither us nor Future Coast View have the ability. It's Cornwall Council that will decide when we can go. So we've got two there. If you could maybe knock on a couple of doors, that would be.
There's actually just a sort of we absolutely right to really raise that, and as officers we've realised that could be a potential point as well. Especially a meeting next week with the person that decides who gets what licences and where.
Right.
And actually you need two contractors to have a working relationship to work that out. So I'm confident that can be worked out. Absolutely understand you don't want the skate park held up in any way, shape or form. I know Beth is trying to find out when your contractor wants to be on.
That's our sticking point at the moment, is we're waiting for a confirmed date for when they can get on there, lining up. They've got a lot of other work booked in.
Yeah.
So without knowing that.
Contractor meeting with, if we can get your contractor there as well, that'd be great. But there's a meeting happening next week.
Yeah, that's it. I just think we've got several plates spinning, balls in the air, whatever you want to say.
They're moving a dumper truck and they're moving a dumper truck, they actually do it safely.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff needs to happen.
Yes, good, okay.
Kevin first then.
Yeah, I mean, I'll bring it back to my first point.
Yeah.
Is there anything that we can do around this table tonight? I mean, my feeling is that there's no consensus to do anything up on the downs. That's my gut feeling. I might have a personally different opinion, but that's the case. My feeling is there's obviously, partly because of what's happened out at Woodmouth, no appetite to do anything with the car park, which leaves us with the beach huts, which I think, again, there's no great appetite to do, and the toilets. And I think the only thing that potentially we could throw really strong support behind is the provision of the toilets. And I would be quite happy to propose that we back that tonight, and that Future Coast View move ahead with that element of the project. And if that then doesn't spend all the money, then I'm kind of at the point where so be it. But I'd like to get some legacy from this whole process. I fear that we're possibly in danger of not having that.
I could go on.
Yeah, Vicky.
Yeah, if we do get these new toilets, what's going to happen to the old toilet blocks? Are they just going to be left to be an eyesore? Because it already, as Garden says, Crooklets does look a bit of an eyesore.
I think you call it Beirut.
Yeah, and you just end up with derelict buildings.
Yeah. So we've got coming up the coastal vision workshop, so there's one on the 16th that we're going to on the 23rd, and that's about thinking about the longer term. So yes, at the moment they would be left as they are. It's a tricky thing that at some of these, the lifeboat station can't really rely on the actual building for the building being in place. So until they've come up with, where they can move the station to, they're not keen for the actual buildings to be removed. But that's what the visioning workshop is about thinking at what point would you move other things, remove things, that sort of thing, and coming up with a plan for that.
Okay, I want to continue to move this on because I'm really conscious of the time, and I know there's people who want to speak. Peter.
Well, we seem to be diving into the detail, and I don't want to miss out on the opportunity to say what I want to say, about the detail. So, right, okay. So, first off, Cricklets car park. I'm gobsmacked at what's happened at Widmouth. If I'm honest, I think it's I don't need to say my personal point of view. You probably all know what it is. I do not want that to happen at Cricklets, please. I would probably be lying on the grass in front of the diggers to try and stop them coming in. So that absolutely clear. The path and sounds, I've made my point. But the toilets, again, I go back to this alternative choice principle. And I think we've been given a very limited set of choices, where the set of choices could have been slightly different. And I was trying to imagine, and I was talking to Helen earlier today about an alternative position whereby perhaps instead of just abandoning our own old toilets and having some portable toilets brought in, which I'm not convinced it would be a great, even if they sort of looked pretty after 3 or 4 years. That any sort of portable building after 5 years always looks a bit tired and begins to fall to bits. So it'd be really difficult for us to maintain that for starters. Well, we have actually got proper decent stone buildings, masonry buildings. But why couldn't we construct a scenario where instead of moving those buildings to somewhere else, we'd actually make them more resilient to the impacts of climate change and sea level rise? Because we know from the projections, the tide won't be in all the time. It's only when you get that big event of inland water versus a high tide and a storm event that will generally get the problems, and then the tide will go back out again and it'll be okay. But why don't we look at an opportunity or a different perspective where we invest some of that money into making those toilets fit for purpose, because they are tired now, and resilient to flooding if and when that happens? Because you can do that to buildings, and you get buildings on floodplains where they put gates across the doors to stop the water coming in, and electrics above a certain point and so on. And I think that would be a position I could be very comfortable with.
On that point.
Hang on,
How much do the toilets cost us every year in maintenance? I.e. like putting a vandalism right?
A lot.
Exactly. And you're going to put more there now to be vandalised and wrecked? It's going to happen, isn't it? It's going to happen. Are you going to leave enough money to cover the cost of all the bloody repairing all the time?
So there is a comment in there. It says toilets current cost of BSTC Ford toilets is approximately £92,000 a year for 70%, i.e. circa 64,000 attributable to summer leads and Cricklets.
Yeah.
That's what they cost.
Yeah. Is that including repairing and vandalism and that?
But to
maintain.
Yeah, but that's not, through the chair and with respect, that is the situation today. If we get the agreement, which I understand is going to happen, we will get a levy off the car park, and those numbers will dramatically change. So I believe that with the levy from the car parks, we can easily afford to make, to take these buildings on, and also look at it through the other end of the telescope. If there are no toilets, who's going to kick up? It's going to be, it's a service that we need to be providing both for the residents and for the visitors, and indeed the showers, which could be incorporated into this proposal as well. And forgive me for sort of taking this back to my first sort of thoughts on it all the time, but we don't have the luxury of coulda, woulda, shoulda, because this money's got to be spent or it's lost. We have, to me, a viable proposal for these toilets, which could also incorporate the showers. We've got an ongoing funding stream for maintenance and repair, which is going to be fed in from the car park levy. Now, assuming those ducks are in a row, then I've got no problem in putting my hands up and getting some of this government money spent in Bude, which will make a difference for our residents and our visitors alike. And we can park the more controversial schemes like the car park and the path over the downs.
Right, what I want, right, because it's, again, I'm really conscious that we've still got quite a lot to deal with and the time's moving on. So I'm going to, people who've got their hands up now, I'm going to allow to speak. And then what we've got on the paper is 5 recommendations. And what I want to do is test those. Right, so I'd like to vote on each one of those 5, and then we know exactly where we stand.
So, Peter's on the Monday, because I seem to recall in F&E that we asked the facilities manager to go away and look at the cost of putting the toilets into good repair.
That was for some of those.
Yeah.
It was some of those. It is on here.
It is on there, so there is an option to look at that. I think that's probably a good idea to do that. I think that's a very good
Can I just come in on that point? Because I think it's important to, because we have talked a lot about what would happen in toilets. And you've got the problem there that answers the defence. And the modelling shows that the point at which that will fail, it will fail very quickly and there'll be coastal catch-up. So it won't be a case of, oh, it just gets flooded, you know, a few times a year. It'll be okay, and then it won't be okay. So I'm not sure putting in flood resilient toilets in that location would work.
Correct. Yeah, correct. Yeah.
So when will you, what timescale are you talking about?
For when
For when the toilets will flow, basically regularly.
So I think the modelling shows that I think in the next sort of 15 to 25 years it's expected that the pond would fail.
Is that with the stones there and with the any changing of the beach?
As it is, as they grow at the moment.
And this council works on a 15 to 25 year.
It depends on the reaction.
Year to year.
When the action's taken on the actual walk, say for instance, I'll go or something, then that wouldn't be 20 years, would it?
Okay, so no, I want to move this on.
Yeah,
Jeremy.
It seems to me that Peter's made a very good point about the current toilets, and I welcome the costing, because in my mind, kind of mental map of the car park, if those toilets flood, the temporary toilets will be flooding as well, because it's all the very same level, but mapping, etc.
Potentially mobile there.
Yeah, and I have a real concern. How many years has that corner office at Crooklets been unoccupied and looking pretty shambolic? The old gents' toilets round the corner have been shut for years, and we're at real risk of having an absolute eyesore at Crooklets, where I think, you know, we keep on saying we're a tourist town. That's not going to be a very attractive look for people arriving. And I think we should be looking, with Future Coast Feud, money to actually refurbish and make a decent fist of that toilet block.
But it belongs to the county.
You get money out of it. They won't do it.
No, and it belongs to the county. That's why it looks awful. It's not the town's.
It's not part of their basic debt. I don't want to.
But I think that if the scooping had been done right in the first place, that could have been on the table.
We're 18 months into a 2-year period. I think the opportunity for those discussions have long gone, unfortunately. We are where we are with it. You know, we're at the point where what we're being asked to do here is consider delivery options. We can't go around the governance issue and whatever again. The money's there, or it's not there. Right, we were going to do it, or we're not going to do it. Right, and if we don't do it with Future Coast View, that's fine. Right, but in the end, we'll end up doing it anyway. Right, and it'll be our money. Right, so it's whether you want to do it now or whether you want to do it in 10 years' time. Right, and that's the reality of it. Right, because or it's going to be in 20 years' time. But at some point, it's going to have to be done. Right, so but if we don't have the appetite because we don't believe the community is supportive of it to do it now, then we won't do it. I mean, that's absolutely fine. But if you want to invest the money in refurbishing the toilets or whatever, that's our money. Right, so that's got to come from this council. It's not going to come from anywhere else. And that's the reality of it, I'm afraid. Right, because that's the nature of the project. The project is very specific in its aims and its goals, and it was laid out to us a year ago, and we agreed with it. So, well, we did. So, and we did, and that's the situation we're in.
And I think the community would be supportive of the new toilets. I just record my concerns about the eyesore that's going to remain.
I absolutely agree with you. And of course, everybody around the table is entitled to their opinion, and I think everybody's had that. So what I'd like to do now is look at the paper, and there are 5 recommendations on the paper. The way we're going to move this on now is to test it. Okay? So the recommendations are, I'm going to read out the first one, so we'll do these individually. Councillors respond to the opportunity to be involved in the coastal vision workshops on the 16th or the 23rd of June. Now, as far as I'm aware, there have been several responses. Okay? What you can do now is, if you like, you can record officially, if you like, whether you're going to attend or not. Is that what you're after?
Yes. So if you haven't responded already, please tell us, preferably tonight, and preferably come on the 23rd, and preferably come on the 16th. But we'll accommodate you if you can only come on 16th.
Because these will be really good opportunities to have exactly the discussions that you're talking about with the people in the room.
Put me down for both.
Can you come for both?
I don't think it'd be useful to come to both.
You have the same discussion twice.
Yeah, we're just repeating.
I've got you down to come.
Yeah, I'm going to say, first one.
So just as a quick show of hands, right, for the 16th of June.
Where is it?
It's in this building, in the Park Centre.
You don't mind.
He's in the pub. Me.
Wasn't the pub?
In the morning.
Right. Have you got this?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Duncan?
I think I'm already down for this.
You are.
Yeah.
I mean, some of you have been very good, so this is just my sort of catch up. Please don't forget to respond.
Yeah. So, well, let's do it again now. So those who, so the 23rd, if you're not going on the 16th, are you available to go on the 23rd?
You've already got me down, but yeah.
Yeah, in case I missed
Yeah.
Happy?
Hang on.
Just keep your hands up until Liz has got those.
And B.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
It's pretty much everyone at one or the other.
Hey?
He's after the free food.
And B.
Okay. Right, so I think that's covered everybody for pretty much those,
Thank you.
one or both of those opportunities. Okay. Okay, so recommendation 2 is councillors support the making of a coast park more resilient to coastal change and agree priorities list of options for future coast build investment in the steering group, for the steering group to consider. When you say the steering group, who is that?
So the steering group has representatives of Bude-Stratton Council, Tatiana. It's chaired by Mark Holmes, the Service Director for Environment. It has representative of the Car Park Service, the Environment Service, and the Environment Agency, and the Environmental Resilience Team.
Okay, right. So the question is whether we support the making of a coast park more resilient to coastal change and agree priorities list of options for future coast build investment for the steering group to consider. So all in favour of that recommendation?
The wording's wrong.
Well, it's what's in front of us.
Can we be absolutely sure that if we vote for this, it probably means a load more tarmac on the downs?
Well, I think it's asking us whether we're going to support the idea. Is it supporting the idea of doing it?
Yes, so that is supporting the idea of it. So if you don't want to do it, you vote against it.
Yeah, I mean, this is the position I want you to take, one way or the other. Are you going to do it or not do
We're
it?
not voting for the short or the long, we're just voting for something.
Are we going to do it or not? Right, so that's the question. Right, so are you in favour of supporting making Coast Park more resilient to coastal change on the downs? All in favour?
Yes.
We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
So can you do that again? What, so you hands up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 7.
Okay, 7. Those against?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Abstentions? 1, 2. Okay.
Kevin, you literally got elected on the downs.
In view, moving on, in view of the need for a quick decision making to achieve the park completion by March 2025, delegate 27, sorry, delegate procurement and contract management to the clerk and mayor following the funding confirmation by Cornwall Council.
We just can't do it.
Well, we either vote for it or not, right? So all in favour? Those against? That's unanimous. So we're not doing that. Yeah. Okay. Councillors support making the toilets more resilient to coastal change and agree a prioritised list of options for future coast build investment for the steering group to consider.
I just want to say this is a really unfair thing because nobody in their right mind would say that they wouldn't want the toilets to be made more resilient. But the method that we're being offered is completely not what I would ever vote for. But I could vote for something else. I'd vote for that if I knew it didn't mean taking a line.
Well, I agree, but equally, we've got to take it in the context. I take your point.
It's very unfair work.
Well, I take your point, but we've got to consider it in the context it's being offered to us. Like, I agree with you 100%.
Of course,
but
I want to make them more resilient to coastal change, but not by the way they're suggesting.
No, so in that case, we vote against it.
But that's not.
But we're not
being offered this choice. It's very unfair.
But I'm not. Well, do you want to comment on that?
We can't offer you that is the only thing we can offer you. If you don't want to support what we can offer, you can make them resilient in another way, but with somebody else's money.
Basically, you're trying to blackmail us.
No, just bear with that. Right, Mike.
Yeah, all I was going to say is, my understanding is that these will be effectively movable units, won't they?
Yeah.
So if we do want extra provision and we don't want to pay for it ourselves, we can go ahead and do this. They get placed over by, we choose one of the options. It might not be 100% what we want, but they can be moved at a future date. As an example, we've had somebody come in a regularly campaign that there aren't any toilets at the top of town. Well, if one of those disabled toilets, suddenly found its way up that hill, it should be wrecked. Yeah. Not that I'm suggesting, but 50 years from now, that might be the lifeboat's access to the sea if the modelling is correct. But, but all I'm saying is this isn't a permanent thing. We're not getting a massive concrete structure that becomes immovable. If we say no to it, we've got nothing. If we say yes, we do have an asset. That could be found a more suitable home. Vicky.
I have a bit of difficulty with this movable thing because they're going to have to be plumbed into the sewerage system. They're going to have to be plumbed into water, which means to me that they're not really movable.
It's the same as a static home. If you plumb it in, you pick it up on a crane, you stick it on a lorry, you move it, you plumb it back in the air. Sorry, that sounds a bit glib, but that is, it's literally
to me the ones that you get at horse shows and things.
Yeah.
No, just Mike was mentioning about the toilets. Obviously, one of the options is that the building that used to be the toilets in somebody's car park is turned back into toilet. And for me, that's probably one of the best things that could be done because there are no toilets right there in town. So actually, you're going to get off the bus at the Strand and those toilets are going to be right there. So actually, one of the best things that could come out, from my personal opinion, is that those toilets become toilets again and they're right there for visitors to see.
More robust, because that end of the car park will flood before the top end. The toilets at the top end are underwater. The entire Strand's underwater because you walk uphill to the front of the car park.
Can I just ask, why can we do that at Summerleys and not Crooklets?
Because in Crooklets, you'll be replacing like the same position, whereas at some of these you're moving back. It's an intention to move.
So it's a technical.
Why were they
closed in the first place? Why were they closed in the first place?
Financial.
Okay, Mr. Alger.
So you closed it. Right, you closed. I'm not stand up. You closed. Just come on. I've listened to this. I'm in the Duty Coaching Questions Friends group. My thoughts, quite often, all the way through that process, is that the options being offered and the advice given to choose those options has been inadequate. And I will make no mistake, I think the breakwater is a critical issue that I understand you can't deal with. In my view, that dune on some of these is out of control and needed taken down lower 20 years ago. I have a great, I don't know what the 5 options you've got in front of you are. I can tell you this. You voted the ultimate path on the Downs, that's on the basis of 300 people who've replied to a survey. There is going to be fucking hell to pay when that happens. I'm telling you now.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. I cannot tell you how strongly I feel that that is going to be shot to pieces. And the thing about it is, I appreciate it's the only one of the only options you've been presented with, and you voted the way that you feel, you wish to vote on it. I think it is an utter error that you've done that. With these toilets, again, I think the choices that you've got are too restrictive. I agree with what Peter said in this. There are other ways. All the way through, I'm sorry, ladies, but all the way through, I think the options that the public have been given and the options that you are now being given are inadequate.
Hopefully, Richard, you understand what the limitations of the project why that's,
Yeah, no,
I understand
yeah, in my view, if the funding, I don't care about funding. I would rather not see you people spend a penny of that money that's on offer to do something good.
Can I just say, I take your point entirely, but my view is that I don't think we have quite agreed to be putting the path down on some of these. What we've agreed to is to enable the working group to work up, their steering group to consider the options. Right. What I'd expect to happen is once those options have been worked up, that comes back to us, and then we'll decide whether we're going to do it or not. I'm keen to see what the options are. I'm keen to understand what that means, and I'm keen to understand what it's going to cost. I don't think here now, unless I'm wrong, that we've given Future Coast Group permission to lay anything on the Downs at all.
Can I just say, I'm sorry if you feel that I've undermined your position or come down this thinking Russ. This is actually how I feel. And I do feel that you are not being given a fair decision to make, and that's all.
Just to say again, I agree with you. I think you're right, which is why I keep saying to this council, what they need is to engage better with Future Coast Group. I think that the way it's working at the moment, where we effectively turn up at a briefing or we go to a public event and we're engaged and involved in that, is absolutely fine. But what we're not doing at the moment is getting into the level of detail that we need in order to make that informed decision. We haven't organised ourselves well enough to engage appropriately, because we get briefings and whatever. That's not the right place to do it. The right place to do it is in a room with the detail in front of you, in a small group, working out exactly the answers to the questions that you're suggesting and what we've heard around the table this evening, rather than trying to do it at 9 o'clock on a Thursday night and then we're set with a set of decisions that we need to make. I entirely agree. I don't feel very comfortable with it at all. But it's down to us as a council how we organise that. We've had 18 months to organise it and we haven't. So we're now getting to the sharp end of where we need to be with it. And we're finding ourselves under increasing pressure to do something, quite rightly, because if we don't, the money disappears. Now, the pressure that the Future Coast Group people are under, which I entirely sympathise with, they've been running the project for 18 months, they've been doing the engagement, they've been doing all of the work, they've been going to the critical friends group, we've been doing an enormous amount of work for engagement. We're the ones ultimately in the end have got to make this decision about stuff. And this is where we are with it. So we can't blame them for coming to us and saying, right, we've got another 7 months to go. We need to actually get on with this because otherwise we're not going to actually do anything. But I agree with you. I absolutely take your point, but I think it's on us as a council to work out better now, right now, how we're going to engage with this stuff properly. So that we're not having this sort of discussion for 2 hours around the table. It's not helpful.
Yeah, I'm sorry, just to finish off, if you'll excuse me. I appreciate you put in a huge amount of work to try to engage the public in this. And I'm really disappointed that the figure was 300.
So am I.
You cannot possibly get, in my view, a democratic decision for 15,000 odd people based on views of 300. It's just not rational.
I take a slightly different view. The consultation events have been well run, well publicised, etc. If people haven't been motivating themselves enough to get on their cross series and attend and have their view, they can't whinge downstream. Because in fairness to Future view, they've done a damn good job. In fairness to the council, they've promoted it well. it's up to the individual responsibility then.
Yeah.
And I can't cry into my beer at that stage.
I agree. It's like voting for a government. You can't complain with the government you get if you don't bother voting. It's just how it is. So
most people do.
Well, they do, but unlucky. So, Pat, I want to move on. So.
Can I just confirm that we have not just voted to dig up the dams?
No.
There's confusion down here.
Well,
we have voted to dig up the dams.
No, I thought I just made that critically clear.
That's
But what we've done, right, is we've agreed for the steering group to consider the options that they're going to, so we're allowing them to think about it properly, rather than turn around and say, we're not interested, so therefore.
I don't think that's what, no.
So,
what I was hoping for is that if you want, what I was hoping for tonight, and maybe I haven't worded this right, and maybe some advice would be good on that, is that if you want to do the path, then you tell us, you tell the steering group what your preferred options are. You could do it the other way around. The steering group can tell you, you've only got this amount of money, you can only do these options. But the steering group would have much preferred use it for an indication from those that are happy with the subject path to. I appreciate you don't want to do that now.
No,
so
we're not in a position.
We can build, maybe a suggestion is that we set up a small group to actually inform about those options, but here for this one and then another one to look at toilets.
But can I just say, Helen, it is worth being really mindful of the fact that we have been working to this timescale for the last 18 months. So everything is planned in because we really appreciate the timescales on it are really tight. But for example, the steering group is on Monday. Our coastal vision event is on Tuesday based on the outputs of the decision on Monday. That is how, we're kind of having to work. We can work with that. We're not obviously not pressure into anything, but that's what
I like it. Yeah, okay, thank you. Ken.
Yeah, I think it is incumbent upon us, probably tonight, because I don't think things are going to change dramatically when we get into the weeds of this. And if we don't want anything touched on the dams, then that's a decision we can make tonight. Regardless of previous votes, I think the consensus of the meeting is we probably don't want the dams dug up and tarmacked. And the consensus of the meeting will definitely be we don't want the car park at Crooklets touched, which kind of leads us back into the toilets. So I would like to be in a position where we could at least give a steer to Future Coast Bude that is where Bude-Stratton Town Council feels the money is best spent in the provision of toilets and showers, and then they can get on and present that and get it built.
So I know you just explained this. So Helen, if you're saying option 2, which we just voted for, by saying that we voted for that, are we committing ourselves to those options that you put in front of us? So by agreeing with the option, that's what I didn't understand. So we have agreed to those options. No,
I haven't understood which option.
No, I know.
You've got one of those 6 options.
Yeah.
We've agreed to look at them and give them a preference.
If we don't like those options, then what happens?
Well, you say we've done one.
Right, okay. Because I didn't appreciate that was.
It's like I said, and I think it's like Kevin said, right? We're in a position here. We were can think about doing it, or we're not doing it at all. Right? What we're doing, I think, is asking the steering group to come back with a prioritised list of options. Right now, at that point, we might then turn around and go, well, we don't want any of those, and then we don't do it. Right? It is that simple. But I want to see. Right, okay.
We've got the list of options.
Yeah, but they're going to prioritise the list. We haven't got time for the steering group to prioritise for you. You can come back to full council next month. I haven't got time for a month today on what part.
We haven't.
Item 4.2, Tony, gives a list of options for the toilets and a list of options for the toilets and summaries. If we vote to do the toilets, they then want us to vote on our preferred option. We've got them all in front of us. Asking them to go away and work out more is asking them to redo the work they've already done.
Right.
I'm sorry,
I get it.
It is all here.
At the end of the day, when this project's over, they'll walk away. We're the ones who are going to have to put up with all the hassle and shit from the people of Bude.
Yeah, copy that.
And that is really going to get very bad, I think, because touch anything on the downs is going to be an absolute nightmare for us.
Can I suggest that with that information,
So,
with that information, we revisit that though?
Can I just say something? I think the residents of Bude would be pretty angry if they learned that we had the millions that we've got and did nothing with it to protect the coast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is always so difficult, but and I know, as you rightly said, we are where we are. But if we were to do an indicative vote and you had a different set of choices here, and one of the choices were to invest in the current structures of the toilet blocks to make them more resilient to climate change, which I think could be an option. I don't think if we looked at the terms of reference of the, and I haven't read them, but if we looked back at those and the way that they've been interpreted, I think they've been interpreted in a way that doesn't allow stuff that it maybe could have done. But if one of the options was to invest and refurbish the current toilet blocks, or to abandon them and have movable ones, I reckon everyone in the council would quite likely vote for the first option I've just described. But it isn't an option, and I think it could have been.
okay, it could have been, but it isn't. So,
I'm just going to say, I thought that hold the line only applied to the part around the castle and the lock gates and the breakwater, and that was the only place where you could actually do.
No, this is adaptation, not hold the line.
Okay, but this is adaptation, but the hold the line was the only situation where you could actually do flood defences.
Yes.
Am I right in that?
Yes, you're right.
Thank you. And wouldn't refurbishing toilets that we have at the moment that are likely to get flooded, wouldn't that be deemed to be flood defences?
We wouldn't be able to invest in it.
okay.
Well, the point I was going to make is rather a moot one, is when we looked at taking that toilet block over and creating some sort of youth space, it was looked at and we just went, no, it is far too expensive to refurbish that for a youth space. We'd be better off building from scratch somewhere else. And the same would apply to refurbish it as a toilet block.
Right. Mike.
I can't remember whether we've actually voted to support the toilet block thing. But
We do number two. We vote for number two.
We voted number two.
I've started, yeah, I get it. I've started. We've got the option of new modular toilets by the gig club in somebody, bring the old toilet block back into use, both of the above, or do nothing. Now, I'm quite happy to support both of the above on that. We don't need to spend the money on the dams, we don't need to spend the money on the other stuff, the car park, whatever. We do know there is a need for locals and tourists alike for toilets. And we get a chance to greatly increase, maybe not perfectly, but greatly increase that provision.
Sorry, you're talking about Summerleys there?
That's Summerleys.
To be clear.
Crooklets, I have some thoughts on certain things at Crooklets that I'm not going to mention in a public thing, because there's a lot of toilet use linked to money making, which could maybe they could be approached to help bring the old block into a little bit more, if you know where I'm going with that. Yeah. But down there, I would be a little bit more careful about us committing to something, but for the aforementioned reasons of I want to tie it in carefully with the skate park. We're hoping for increased use down there by investing in this skate park. Having toilet provision becomes, exactly, if not essential, more vital. So I would like to propose that we actually support the toilet thing and we move on to giving a preference.
Okay, does anybody want to second this?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Right, everyone in favour?
Anyone against? Okay, any abstentions? Okay.
Tony, would you like me to read what the funding can be spent on?
Yes, please.
Okay. So, things that the funding can be spent on: moving structures, amenities and properties away from risk at the coast, changing land use in areas vulnerable to coastal erosion, making changes to community infrastructure such as car parks or toilet blocks so that the impact of coastal erosion on is minimised.
Yeah, there you go.
Looking into how funding can be secured for changes that need to be made to adapt to a changing coastline, working with the planning authority to ensure coastal change is taken into account, working with businesses, community groups, as well as the wider public to help inform decisions. The programme will not fund building any viewfront banksworks, any activity in an area where the shore management plan is hold the line, activities that should take place in business as usual or routine maintenance, any work to address damage caused by storms, any work to undertake coastal cleanup. It's so under that one, so making changes to infrastructure, that would be applicable, I think, in places where there was a small amount of flood risk, but the modelling shows that that wouldn't be applicable. We wouldn't ever be able to justify that as a good investment of our project funding.
Both sets of toilets are within the erosion zone, the coastal erosion zone.
So they would come under the bit about moving structures back.
But the modelling doesn't show crooklets necessarily under that much threat for at least 20 years or so, did it?
I think it's very unknown.
The point that I'm trying to make is that those rules have been interpreted in a very specific way when they could have been interpreted in a different way that we would be very happy with.
Of course you would, but we can't offer that.
Well, I think we could.
Well, I think we can't today, and that
Right.
is.
But I would like to escalate that question because I think I'm right, you think you're right. But
So-
can we take it upwards?
Yeah, but I can promise you we won't be able to get the funding to do that, so process to an involved.
Anyway, right, moving on. Darby.
If you're on about crooklets, you can't do that because crooklets is going to be underwater. Where's high tide going to be then? Up by Flexby Church.
On a good day.
It's showing tide in somebody's car park, Cricket's car park, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So where's the high tide and low tide marks going to be?
I'm not sure I understand the question. So
Well, it's a tide and you have high water, low water. So if we've got the water in somebody's Cricket's car park,
So the modelling shows mean high water.
so that's going to be the high water in Cricket's car park.
That's what the modelling. So in things like the visualisation.
Yeah.
That shows mean high water.
Yeah. So where's the low water mark going to be then?
Don't think it's right.
Well, of course it is, because half the time, if you've been down there, most of the time, you can walk right down to Wrangles and that. So we're now going to not have any beach at all then?
I don't think it's relevant to the discussion.
Okay.
Well, why not? You're talking about we can't put toilets here, we can't do this.
No time. In the Atlantic as a bloody toilet.
People won't walk miles to go to the toilet, they'll just walk into the sea.
Anyway,
Sorry, I'm getting frustrated.
anyway, right. I really want to try and get this done. Okay, one way or the other. I appreciate the fact it's confusing. I also appreciate the fact that it's emotive, which is part of the point about it not being presented to us in a full council on a Thursday night, because it's not the right place to do it. I keep saying it, right, and it's not right, because we're ending up spending hours talking about stuff that we've already actually spoken about and stuff that actually has been dealt with over the last year and a half. So, we had a proposal which was to look at the options for the toilets, which was agreed. Right, so with the idea now that we're going to provide the options available, is that right?
That's correct, yeah, we're going to provide a preference.
Right, so for both crooklets and Summerlees.
I propose that we take option 2 for crooklets and option 3 for Summerlees, which is effectively maximisation, with a additional request that we have showers provided, external showers.
Got shelves on the outside.
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't reading all the boxes. But yeah, basically max out those proposals.
All right, so before we make this decision, and I think it was Councillor Jennings that made the point, that there is a cost attached to operating these, which we will have to pick up. So we are putting ourselves in for extra staff time to clean them, the water, the sewage costs. What is our budget line for that? How will it affect the preset?
So at last week's meeting, I asked exactly those questions. I think they're entirely valid. There was a number of questions I asked around maintenance, how long they last, where they're going to get plumbed in, how much is that going to cost? I agree with you, we don't have any of that. So if we're not comfortable because we don't have those answers, then we don't do it. But at the moment, we don't have those answers. I agree with you. I brought it up last week.
I don't think we should be even thinking about making a decision without that information.
I personally am deeply concerned with the process at the moment in relation to what we're being presented with the amount of information, and then the level of commitment that the council is required to make, this council. The other thing that bothers me, really, is the lack of oversight and support, I suppose, for one of that reason, from Cornwall Council. I haven't seen Cornwall Council involved in this process at all. And that bothers me a lot, because ultimately, in the end, Cornwall Council own the car park. They own the land that it's all going on. I don't know what Cornwall Council's view is on that. I don't know whether they're going to charge us, right, for putting those toilets in their car parking spaces. Right? Well, exactly. And I'd like to know the answer to all of that stuff before we actually get to a position where we're going to commit to it. Because that's the bit that bothers me. It's a great idea in principle, but that's all it is. It's in principle. And again, without getting into the position where we are having a meaningful, detailed discussion about that, where we would ordinarily come to a council meeting with a set of, we know what it was going to cost. We know what it's going to look like in the future. We consider what the budget would look like and do that. Without having that, I don't know how we're going to do that. And I understand the problem with timescale.
We're not being asked to make an in-principle decision. We're being asked.
I know. I agree.
I said this exact thing an hour ago, and yet we've still just continued the conversation, making decisions, or just.
So the question to you, I'll give it to you all now. Right. So knowing what we know, which is not much, it seems, actually in reality, and having this sort of split opinion around the table, what do you want to do? Do you want to say we're not in a position as a council to make a decision because we don't have enough information in which to do it? Do you want to do that? Because we can, if you like. We don't have to commit to anything. But I don't see a consensus around the table. I do see a lot of people who are confused by what the process is. I see a lot of people not really fully understanding exactly what it is that we're being asked. I don't understand personally about the funding lines. I don't understand any of that. I don't understand what Cornwall Council's position is on any of this, because it's not been done. So there's a lot of unknowns here for us personally. I absolutely take your point about timelines, but I do feel slightly sort of like we're being presented almost with a fait accompli, take it or leave it, but without actually the level of detail that we might need in order to make an informed decision. And it bothers me a little bit. We could keep going around this for another hour, but in the end, we've got to get to a point where we're going to have to move on. So, Kevin first.
If we bring it back to no's, we don't know for 100% that we're going to get this levy from the car parks, but it has been given to other parishes. There is no reason to believe it won't be available to us. So there will be an additional funding line. We also know that we currently have a very dirty, difficult to clean toilet on Crooklets and a set of toilets on Summerleys which are basically covered in sand half the time, and the drainage there is a nightmare. So we know that that's what we've currently got, and we will be able to move to a position where we've got better facilities, larger facilities, and potentially a funding stream which is going to make the overall cost to the precept payer lower anyway, regardless of what we choose tonight. So I think we are where we are, and if we decide not to make a decision tonight, when are we going to make it, and what extra information do we need? Because we can kick this can down the road to the point where there's not enough time to get anything done. And then we have to go to the people of Bude-Stratton and explain why the government gave us money and we said no thanks.
Right, we're being asked to go to the event on the 16th or the 23rd of June. I would have thought by going to that event, we would then be in a position to better address 2, 3, 4 or 5, which would then bring us back in line for full council in July. I know it's put a delay in the system, but as you can see, there's a lot of confusion. And I would think that your workshops on the 16th and the 23rd would probably answer a lot of those questions, so that then we might be able to get more people on board.
Okay, Tom?
I don't have kind of very strong views, and just I can't make up my mind. And listening around the table, there is a dearth of information. So I suppose I have to revert back to, we made a decision a few years ago without enough information, which came back and bit us on the posterior. And so in spite of the pressures, I would have to say we don't have enough information to make this decision.
Oh,
yeah, recommendation 5. I mean, it all belongs to Cornwall Council. It's nothing to do with us, the beach huts and everything else. So that's a non-starter as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
We've got past 4,
Yeah, I mean, I do think that possibly the toilets are the best option, but right now, I just don't think we've got enough answers to the questions in terms of how much it's going to cost us, are we going to keep the old toilets and the new toilets, how our facilities team manage, like you said, are we going to get that bit of land for those toilets for free? Probably not, but we need to consider all of those costs, because once Future Coast Bude are gone, it becomes our responsibility. And we need to make sure that we understand everything that we are going to be left with at the end of it. And I just think until we've got those answers, I thought we were making these sort of in principle decisions today. I didn't think this was us saying absolutely, like, put the park on the downs and do the toilets. I thought this was in principle, and and then they'd come back to us.
Yeah, Chairman.
I'd simply say I really struggle with the bit about can we afford to clean these toilets? We're cleaning toilets now, which are pretty crummy. It's likely to be better. There may be an interim period where both sets have to be cleaned, but instead of cleaning A, the same people will be cleaning B, in my village idiot.
But I take your point, like, what we've not had a discussion about. You're right that we may have to do it for a period. But the things I've heard around the table tonight is that those toilets might be viable for another 10 years, 20 years, I've heard. I don't know what that is. And we don't know as a council what we're committing ourselves to in relation to that. Do we want to run both sets of toilets? Do we have the option to run both sets of toilets?
I didn't think we were.
Well, I don't know.
Well, surely if we're getting new toilets, we'd shut the old ones and use the same staff to clean the new ones.
I agree, but they're under lease, I agree. I understand, aren't they, from Cornwall Council?
Yes.
Those toilets under lease?
The current ones are under lease to Cornwall Council. If you want to cancel that lease, with a appropriate notice, you can. Or maybe you could ask Cornwall Council, you could have an alternative lease to use them for something else.
Yeah, but it's no point if they're going to be underwater, that beach. So, but anyway, I suppose these are all really interesting questions, because what I'd like to know from Cornwall Council in advance is if we say, right, we're going to offer that lease up, what's the conditions for doing that? And what Cornwall Council are going to do with the buildings? Because it comes back to the point that was being made earlier about them being an eyesore. It's fine for us to say, well, we're going to relinquish the lease, but if Cornwall Council don't maintain them and they don't look after them, then they just become an eyesore that we don't own. So it still leaves us with the problem that we spoke about earlier. You've got people complaining to us because you've got buildings that are falling into disrepair because Cornwall Council are not maintaining them. And nothing to do with us because we don't own them. Because what we're focusing on is the mobile toilet. So
Can I just, a lot of these things I appreciate you haven't got the information, but actually I can't give you the information about those toilets are going to cost to maintain until you tell me how often you want them to be cleaned.
Because that is a majority of the cost.
Yeah, I'm sat here thinking exactly the same. Until we tell them how many of these toilets we want, which ones we want, you can't possibly have these numbers. What we do know is that toilet provision is pretty much our responsibility. You know, and we have had a lot of people come in and tell us it is currently inadequate, particularly accessible toilets and things like that. Yes, we don't know the cost of cleaning them. I could go out on a limb here and give you a rough guess at how long it takes to clean 6 toilets. All right, longer if somebody's in a bit of a so-and-so. All right, it is not a huge part of our budget. You know, it's not something that I'm going to lose sleep over if we suddenly get a bill that's 10% bigger than my rough estimate right now. We're talking hours per week. You know, we're not in 6-figure sums here. Well, we're not.
They were shut for 2 days last year or the year before because it was great.
Well,
this is where the big cost comes.
If we experience of all 3 parish council who have these kind of toilets is that vandalism goes down significantly. They've had to spend significantly less because of vandalism, because they're new toilets and because they're unisex. That's the experience. I put that in the report. But I can't give you the detail about the costs because I don't know how often you want to clean them. So the only way to answer that question is for you to tell me how you want to clean them, and then they can be costed up. And likewise with the buildings, you know, we will only decide what we're going to do with buildings, the council will decide what we're going to do with buildings, if you decide to give them up. If you don't decide to give them up, so we can't actually answer quite a few of those questions until you have given us decisions about practical stuff down the line. If you don't want to take those decisions, you want to keep things exactly the same, then you need to vote against it and we won't do anything.
Years ago, the gents' toilets was round the corner, right? And if you move it again now, we're going to end up half those buildings are just going to be let go. Because nobody's done nothing about them. There was the gents' toilets on the, you know, facing the car park. Round the corner was the women's. Then you had the surf club, women's and blokes. Then you had this beach shelter, council cafe, and the beach office for the iron of the boards and everything.
All county.
Right?
All belong to county.
So, Kevin, can you just remind us what your proposal was?
My proposal was to take the maximum option, which is option 2 on Crooklets and option 3 on Summerleys, and it says further down that would include external showers on the buildings. So we would end up with a new set of portable toilets on Crooklets, a set of portable toilets on Summerleys, and the toilets at the far end of the car park nearest Danny Moore's Bridge brought back into operation.
Can I just clarify that option 2 for Crooklets is the toilets on the overflow car park?
Yeah.
And not
by the skate park, because I don't think there's any appetite to have them right by the skate park.
So you're building on the dam?
No, on the overflow car park.
Still part of the dam.
Well,
Like Katie, so
Kevin.
Is that affordable? Like you'll be able to pay for all of those options?
Well, that will be the steering group's decisions. That's why I'm asking for your priorities, and they'll come back to you after the meeting on Monday and say yes or no.
I'm just curious about the steering group. Because our town clerk's a member.
Yes.
But she doesn't have any input into assessing the options. How does that work?
I'm not a decision maker, I'm not an elected member, that's.
None of them are.
None of them.
No, so who's making the decisions then?
I'm uncomfortable with being a decision.
Everything else is being everybody but you.
So how does that work? Because if the town clerk is representing the town council,
Yeah.
the town clerk's not actually authorised to make any decisions on behalf of the town council. That's not how it works.
I think the town council, the town clerk is able to represent the views of the decisions today. So,
Well, if there's only one decision, which we, then that's fine.
yeah, so you reflect that you've been basically told how to vote.
Well, I'm not sure about that. No, I would argue not. We don't instruct the town clerk to go and represent us at other meetings and then that doesn't happen.
Okay.
That's just not how it works. Is it? I mean, it's not, is it? I mean, if it is, that's really unusual. I have to say, and I don't think that's normal. I mean, if ordinarily you'd have an elected member, you know, who then could do it because they'd be a representative of an outside body, for instance. You know, and that's but the town clerk doesn't act on. You know, we don't provide the town clerk with that authority to go and act on an outside body and then represent the council. It's not how it works. Because the town clerk's not democratically elected. I mean, they're an employee of the town. Okay, right, just one more comment.
I'm hesitant to extend this further, but at the briefing last week, it was raised that the proposed provision at Crooklets is a severe reduction in the number of available facilities. And there was talk about 2 blocks to make up, because to be quite honest, if you're going to go from the current provision to 6 toilets plus a changing place cubicle, for all of those people, it ain't going to be enough.
The current provision on Crooklets is minimal, and
this is a reduction.
I don't believe so.
It is a reduction.
It says.
So there was talk last week at the briefing about 2 units.
Okay, stand corrected on that one.
In the risk of Kevin forgetting what his motion was, can I second it, please? Thank you.
Right, so the proposal on the table is, Kevin, just again, please.
That we take option 2 in relation to Crooklets, new modular toilets by the car park, and we take option 3 in relation to Summerleys, which is new modular toilets by the Gig Club, and to bring the old toilet block at the far end of the car park by Nannymores Bridge, or nearest Nannymores Bridge, back into use.
Okay.
Can I have a slight hiccup on that one? Is that the toilet block is used by Friends of Bude Seapool?
No, it's not. It's been given up. They haven't used it for ages.
Yeah.
They haven't given it up.
They don't. They've given it up.
One question. You want to go put in your toilets over there?
It's coming, Jerry.
How are you going to plumb them in?
Sorry?
Well, you're going to plumb the toilets in by the Gig Club. Well, you'll be careful where you're digging because you've got electric cables going there somewhere.
I'll rely on. I mean, we're not doing it, so you know.
Chair, can we move to a vote? We've had a proposal.
So we've had the proposal on a second. So is everybody happy with the proposal? Right, at the end of the table, are we happy with the proposal? Right, okay, so all in favour?
No, that's
Those against? Those abstaining? Okay. Right. So number 5, councillors to support making the beach huts more resilient to coastal change and agree to explore owning and renting beach huts in the future. No, sorry. Any other comments on that? No. Okay, so we were going to propose to do it or not? No. Okay, so those, well, we're going to do it, those in favour? Those against? That's unanimous. Any abstentions? Good. Right, do you have the answers that you need?
Not for the past.
Yeah, I was about to say, you lot have voted us into a situation where we've got to give a priority now. So, well, the 7 people that voted for it, thinking they weren't committing, have committed. And
okay, so do we want to revisit that, knowing what we know now? Okay, so let's do that. Knowing the information that we've got now, we'll revisit that decision. Okay? Happy with that? Are we happy with that? Yeah. Good. Okay, so.
Even though this is the course of action I do want, I'm just unsure about the democratic soundness of the process. Because we made a formal vote on record.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so what would you like to suggest?
Do you want to break standing orders, or,
Yeah,
do you want to ruin it down?
If I can be of assistance.
Those are your options.
It is, there is provision within standing orders for the chair to make a decision as to how standing orders are applied. If you decide that it's in the interest of the council to revisit that decision, that is perfectly acceptable.
In the light of further information.
Yeah. Well, I'm just going to say that if you know, we can say that actually we didn't actually have the right information to hand when we made the decision. So actually, we now have the correct information. We can.
Okay, so.
And I think that should be minuted.
Yeah. So as the chair of this committee, knowing what we know now, I would like to break with the convention of standing orders and suggest that we have a revote on item 2 based on the information that we now have in front of us, which is different than it was when we had the vote. I'd like us to agree to do that.
Right. Yeah, that's great.
So all in favour? Anyone against? Good. Right, we can get that minuted and that's fine. So, back to item 2. Council support the making Coast Park more resilient, the coastal change and agree to prioritise a list of options for future coast speed investment the steering group consider. I'd like to propose that. You can second it?
No.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've got to decide whether we're going to do it before we look at the options.
Well, we're not making the path more resilient. We might be putting another path down, but we're not making that path more resilient because we're taking it away. You know.
You used to be my teacher.
There's no do not, nothing Well, we can either choose, but in the way that we've just done it previously, right? You either, if you choose to look at the options, you vote to do that first, then to consider what the options are. If you don't want to look at the options, we don't bother.
Well, another option that isn't there is that they could widen that path.
It's not there, Paul, so we can't.
Well, they got the money to spend, but the path isn't wide enough.
But we can't choose an option that's not in front of us.
Oh, okay.
So we can only vote on what's in front of us. Okay? Right. So the question is.
I just want to know how long before we can get up to reroute the path anyway.
How long is a piece of string?
Well, yeah.
Don't worry, it won't affect you.
I think you do.
And I should be walking up there for years, don't worry about that.
Who knows? I know, but the information regarding coastal change, right, and all of the information related to that is all available, and it has all been available for at least a year, right? It's always available via Future Coast View, right? They're presenting it to the public, right? And you can ask the questions. I don't have the answer to that, but these guys do.
Do you want the answer?
No.
Yeah. Yes.
I don't.
Yes.
No.
Yeah. Go on.
So there's a geotechnical survey of that section, and there are elements that are obviously more at risk than others, but I'm pretty sure the report says that most of them are likely, the paths aren't likely to be affected in the next 10 years in most instances. There's one particular bit where it is more impacted.
Right.
Yeah, those sort of obvious.
So to avoid being here in this room for another 10 years.
Right, the question is, I'll say it again. Council support making the coast park more resilient, the coastal change and agree a prioritised list of options, future coast view investment for the steering group to consider. We were going to agree to do that or we're not. Okay? That's that. Is everybody happy with that? Right, that's the proposal. Is anyone going to second it? Well, I'm saying that we need to vote on whether we're going to do that or not.
Oh,
well, you could, if it wasn't seconded, you just couldn't go forward.
Well, I agree. So are we?
I'm happy to second it on the basis that we need to take a vote.
Yeah.
It's not that I'm supporting it.
Yeah.
But I would second your proposal.
Yeah.
For a vote.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was. That's precisely what we're going to say.
No.
So the question is now is whether we consider the options or not, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Are we all sort of happy with that? Yeah.
With all the others we just went through and asked, who's in favour at this point, who is not.
Yeah.
That's all we did.
Yeah.
So
Are we happy?
with that?
No, I think we have to vote on the first part is councillors support making the coast path more resilient to coastal
Yeah.
change. Right, so we already
We
did
say
that.
no, and then that's it.
So that's the vote that we're doing again. We're revisiting the vote we made earlier.
Yes. That's exactly it.
Oh, I thought you said you were going to go straight into the options.
No.
We're going to spend more on staff overtime in this. Clean the toilets for you.
I've literally just read it out when it was in front of us. We're going to vote to do it or not. Right, and that's been proposed and seconded. Right, we're all happy about what we're voting on. Right, all in favour. Right, those against. Right, any abstentions? Right, okay. Are we all happy?
Right. Was that to the vote? Are we happy?
So now we're not doing it, right? Yeah. Happy with that. Good. Right, moving on.
What's here? Hungry. You'd be angry soon.
Yeah, we've done that one.
Right, we got planning.
Right, item 13.
Yeah.
Does that make us liable if anybody does fall off the path?
I don't know.
Well, the answer is yes.
Oh, it's no different than it was. Chris.
Yeah, I see.
Anyway, right. Item 13. To appoint councillors to positions on the committees. Planning, 2 vacancies. Any takers?
Right, moving on.
Right, moving on. Cultural and Heritage Services Committee, 1 vacancy. Moving on.
Well done. We've done 14.
Yeah. To appoint members, committee, to appoint members a committee terms of reference working group.
Who wants to go on working group? A working
To
group.
appoint members a committee is what it says. To a committee, okay? I'm only reading what it says. To a committee terms of reference working group. Katie.
Is it a committee or a working group?
Katie.
It's a working group to go through the terms of references for the committees.
Right.
It sounds exciting.
I did have a proposal for this,
Tom's keen.
that it's the chairs of the committees that make up the working group, as I believe that they would be best placed to,
So mayors and chairs, basically.
yeah, basically mayors and chairs to do
It
that.
makes sense.
Tom.
My understanding from the last meeting was that standing orders were to be included in this.
I think it'd be a big piece of work to do the committees and standing orders at the same time, but if you feel that that's appropriate.
Sorry? I know, but there is potential for them to be done every year. But I did ask this question at the last meeting. And your response was that, I can't remember the exact wording, but that there would be.
I would have thought that if we're going to review the terms of reference for the committees, the likelihood is that it's going to have an impact on standing orders anyway. I would say the 2 things. Now, whether you feel as a work group, we need to get this done quickly, right? Because if it's going to be the terms of reference for the committees, this needs to be done in a month. Otherwise, we're just not going to, we won't have functioning committees until this gets done. Now, if you're happy as a working group to include standing orders and that and get it done in a month, that's fine. But I think that would be tricky.
Well, there are some standing orders that we've been talking about for years.
No, I just think it would be good practice to do it all, as Tom says, right? Because we are supposed to vote on the fact that we have reviewed our standing orders in toto every year. It's part of our annual process. I know we've done it, right? But I suspect the councillors around the table might have just nodded it through because it's a long meeting. And to do it in this way is the right thing.
And Tom's entirely right. I mean, we know that they need to be done, and it was agreed, wasn't it? That we'll need to get them through now, but we do need to work on them. So I absolutely.
That's my understanding.
Yeah. So, okay, so are we happy to do an amended proposal then? We haven't had a proposal yet, have we?
Well, I
Did you?
did give a proposal.
Are you happy to
That is the
amend
mayor's
that to include standing orders?
Yeah, absolutely, that's fine.
So the proposal would be, for effectively the mayors and chairs agree.
Well, what if I wanted to be on that?
Would the press
Why should I be excluded?
Okay, well, we'll have everything excluded then.
Well, probably not, but I'm just asking the question.
But all would you, the proposal, so.
Just any interested councillor.
Well, I agree, but we've got a proposal, let's test that and see whether that's okay or not.
Well, can you just include any interested councillor?
Well, that's any committee, you can go to any committee. A councillor can.
Every councillor can put their hand up and
Yeah.
wants to be part
You
of
just
it.
don't vote.
Where we've got 18 people, we may as well do it in full council and have another 4-hour meeting, which I don't particularly want to do.
Except you'd have done it behind closed doors, and everyone would have come to a consensus before you brought it to the council. So by restricting it, you're actually opening up that potential far greater.
Tony, stay with us, don't lose heart. We,
My proposal is that it's the mayors and chairs that form the working group.
Can I second that, please?
So the proposal is that the mayors and chairs get themselves together for a working group to work on the terms of references for the committees and the standing orders. Okay.
I think Peter makes a good point, because if the mayors and chairs come up with a set of proposals which is in any way controversial and it has to be ratified by full council, then you will likely get a lengthier debate in full council than you would do by opening up the working group. I don't think you would get a overwhelmingly large number of takers for the working group, but by opening it up to interested councillors, I think you take away more risk than you add.
So can I propose an amendment that we add plus any interested councillor?
That's the idea, she wants to change it.
Planning and staff and full council.
Okay, you're being asked to.
So you don't want any more than 6, would you?
6 is normally the number. What was the question?
Well, the amendment was plus any additional councillor that wished to take part.
So was that in the terms of reference for working groups, that there was a...
Between 3 and 6, I think it was. Yeah.
Can I just say, of course, the other option here is if Councillor Audrey Rockins isn't happy to include that amendment can be included provided there's a seconder, and I'm happy to second it.
Now you have to put that to the vote.
Right, the thing is, right, the thing is, we have agreed to a set of terms of reference for working groups. As a council, we've agreed to a set of terms of reference for a working group. It says, correct me if I'm wrong, between 4 and 6 members, is that right? 3 and 6? Right, so if you open up this proposal, you can end up with 18 people in a working group, which is contrary to our own terms of reference. What do you want to do?
Suicide.
I mean, you know...
The number of full members would normally be between 2 to 6.
There you go.
Right, so normally, this is not
Normally,
usual.
that's not restricted.
No, I know it's not, but again, what's not normal about reviewing the terms of reference for a set of... I mean, if it's exceptional circumstances, I've got a problem with it. Like,
Well, point of order, Chair.
Yeah.
I've proposed an amendment which has been seconded. You have to put it to the vote, and that, if it's voted through, it becomes a substantive, and it's one.
Right. Okay, so the amendment is, we agree to open up the working group to any interested members of the council. Okay, everyone for? Everyone against? Staying? Right, it's carried.
Carried, there you go.
Okay. So the proposal now is that we form a working group primarily of, well, we form a working group of what, councillors?
Mayors, chairs, plus any interested parties, that's what we just voted on.
Mayors and chairs, any interested parties, to convene.
We have to propose to do a working group first, and then the members.
Right, okay, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll do it in 2 places, We'll agree, or we'll vote on setting up a working group in the first place, and then we'll work on the membership. How about that? Right? So my proposal is that we set up a working group to review the terms of references for the committees and standing boards.
I thought we had already voted on that.
No, we haven't. We've voted on an amendment to the original proposal.
No, that is now the substantive.
Right, so the proposal is then we set up a working group, including mayors and chairs and any other. Right,
No, it's not the proposal, that has been voted on.
Oh, so we're doing it then?
Yes. No, we make changes to appoint the.
Right, yeah, okay, yeah, right.
So is there, now put it out there,
Right.
for anybody else that wants to join the working group?
So we now have the mayors and chairs and other councillors. Right, do we need to vote on that?
Yes, we need to vote on it. It specifically says on the terms of reference that we.
Not including the mayors and chairs, are there any other councillors who would like to join that working group?
Well, I'm going to have to put my hand up, aren't I?
Okay, right, so you two you're proposing yourselves in effect. Do we need to vote on that?
Yeah.
Right, so can we do both at the same time?
Yes.
Right, so the proposal is it's going to be Kevin and Peter that join that working group. Everybody in favour? Right, anyone against? No, no abstentions, right, done.
Is that be available for every single?
Yeah.
That probably would go to.
To consider an invitation from Cornwall Council to review renewals of public spaces protection order, brackets, dogs.
Yes.
I propose we accept it.
Yeah, I second that, yeah. You're barking up the wrong tree, kid. Here we go.
I think I've got to put down the following details. Name of organisation. I shall put down this council.
You're not representing the council.
Well, that's what I want to know.
Well, no, that's just to show you what the form is.
No, I filled it in. I'm sending it in.
Yeah. Have you done it for yourself?
You don't have to have it on.
Right, just move on.
I know, move on.
We'll do it, unless you want to do your own personal one as well.
I'm doing the personal one. I just needed to know what I put on it.
Your name.
Yes, I know that.
What?
So
Wild animals.
through the chair, may I ask Councillor Jennings a question? Do you wish to have an amendment to the current status quo?
Amendment to this.
Yeah.
Ban the bloody things from everywhere, mate. I've had enough of dogs.
Right, okay. Well, do you want to?
What I need to know is my role within the organisation.
No, you're an individual. No, you're an individual.
Can I just stop? Just a second. As far as I can see on that form, that is a form for town and parish councils. It's not for individuals, right?
Well, why did I get it then?
It's on
To show you the information.
It's not for you now, is it? That's part of your. Did you get given that, or was that just part of the agenda?
It's for information.
It's just for information.
We're now going to discuss it.
Right. Okay. So we've had a proposal.
Yes, and
That
second
we
it.
accept it, which has been seconded. Do we have any other questions relating to that before we vote?
Yeah, I know it's late in the day, but this is worth giving due diligence to rather than just waving it through because it's late in the day, let's be honest. Are we actually happy as a table that the current dog restrictions on our beaches
Yes, yeah.
are suitable? Because Councillor Jennings doesn't feel that way.
Well, he doesn't want dogs anyway.
Right, okay, so just bear with me. Right, so on this form, there's a series of questions. Okay. Question 2, are you happy with the current order to be renewed?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Well, it's just a bit
Okay, well, I think we probably need to do that at the end. Well, if it's no, and then you've got to think about what, just look at the questions. What changes do you want?
You're going to have to ask each question individually.
What is it each one to a vote?
This
Yes
is
or
just
no?
public spaces, right?
I thought it was dogs on beaches.
We voted to accept the invitation to review.
It says dogs on leads, dog fouling, dog prohibited and dogs on leads by direction. Nothing on there about beaches.
You need to work on it.
Well, the public spaces protection order only refers to the beaches. I'm pretty sure that's what it will be.
I think there's lots of jobs.
Which we don't have. Unless you have.
Twentieth of August, right, can I?
Close the Thursday afternoon.
Right, can I suggest, right, the deadline on this is the 20th of August. Clearly, we're not entirely clear what this is, or what we're being asked to do. My proposal is we defer this and it comes back to the council next month when we've got the information in front of us that we need. How about that? Because I'm not sure, right? So that's my proposal. Anyone want to second that?
Yeah.
Right, all four?
Was that a pour or four?
We voted on that twice now.
No. Just wake up.
We're deferring an invitation to consider reviewing the renewals.
The problem I've got.
If we can't decide whether we want to review them, we're going to wait.
Do you mind keeping quiet?
The problem that we've got, from what I can hear around the table, is people don't really understand what they're being asked, and they don't understand what it's about. I'm not entirely sure, right, are we talking about beaches? Or are we talking about the roads? Because it talks about dog, it doesn't mention anything on
The agenda item as written is asking us whether we would like to review it.
I know.
We can say, do it now.
So, but we're being asked.
Would you like to review it? Yes, we'd like to review it.
But we're being asked a series of questions. So that.
And when are they got to be in by?
20th of August, which is why I've just said we need to defer it until next month, and then we come back with the right information.
Ticky.
Well, will it definitely be on the thing next week? Next month?
Well, we just agreed to do it, so yes.
Right, 17.
Item 17, to receive items of correspondence from the clerk.
Yes. Nothing, well done.
Item 18, to note the date of the next meeting, which is Thursday, 2nd of July.
Yay.